You all rise and join me in the pledge of allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Welcome. We've been reflecting. We started at 9 o'clock this morning. Please, Lynn, and roll call, please.
Vice Hill.
Here.
Treasurer Anderson.
Here.
Trustee Hoppy. Here. Trustee Osmond.
Here.
Clerk Squire. Here.
Very good. Thank you. We are now at a point in time, if anybody, member of the public, wants to talk about one of the many things listed on the agenda today, you may do so at this time, or you can hold. And as long as the comments or potential exchange don't involve a really long time during the discussion of a particular item, you can make your comment at that time. This is our work session. We generally don't take a lot of actions, but sometimes we do if there's a timely piece. So that being said, does anybody have any comments on our listed agenda today? Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to see if we could do the bid on the car.
Could you come up here? We're being zoomed out here, so unfortunately, we've got to use microphones and push. If the button's not pushed to green to make a green ring, please do so.
Yeah, it's green.
And say your name again, ma'am.
My name is Karen Douglas.
Douglas. Okay.
Yeah, I'm here to see if I've put in a good bid for the car that you had for sale.
Okay. It is number 3 on the agenda. Does the board have any problem with letting the police department go first so that we can get those things accomplished? Board?
Thank you very much.
Not a problem. Thank you.
Mhm.
That'll be fine. Buzz, you want to move up? We'll just move you up.
You want me to go over my report first and then we'll do that?
Yeah, we can do that real quick. Just, you go over your normal highlights.
Yep,
and,
okay.
And then we'll deal with it. Within there are 2 issues that do require a timely piece for us this morning for operation of the police department. So go ahead.
Yep. Number 1, just quick update on the accreditation process. Julie, our administrative clerk, accreditation manager, has finished chapter 2, which was the personnel, and has begun working on chapter 3, which is one of the larger ones with 40 standards total. After she gets that one done, the rest of the 3 are a little shorter, so she's moving right along with it and doing a great job. Number 2 there, obviously with the interceptor for sale, we'll go over the bids.
Shall we stop right now and do that?
Yeah, we can do that right now.
Okay, very good. Clerk, I believe you have, Clerk Squires has
So
the
we have
bids.
4 bids. I'll do them in date order of which they were received.
4 bids.
The first one was received on April 14th.
14.
And that is from Larry and Karen Douglas for $55,501. $5,501. And then on 4/29 from Josh Lund. $5,225. And this one also was received on 4/29. And this is from a Taryn Horger. Horger.
Okay.
RGER.
Okay.
And the bid is for 4,910.
Okay.
And then we had one come in late in the day yesterday. And that is from Jerome Bushy. And his bid is 5,900. And that one come in at 3 o'clock yesterday.
Yep, you are welcome. Would a board member like to make some motion to accept the bid from Jerome Bushy for $5,900 for the purchase of the 2016 Ford Explorer Police Interceptor as is?
So moved.
Moved by Treasurer Anderson. Any support?
Go ahead.
Are you supporting it, Clerk?
Yeah, I
Clerk
can.
Squire support. Any further discussion?
Yeah, just a little bit. Have you got a chance to, to vet those to see that they're properly, all the pieces had, all the bids had the correct information and everything on them, so they're all legit.
All we asked for is for them to be sealed,
Yep.
their name, their phone number, and
Okay.
the amount that they are bidding.
Okay.
And the date and time.
And we
that it
dated
came
them
in.
as they came in
Yep,
and
they're signed.
initialed,
Absolutely.
and I have kept them in the vault.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
I just opened them.
Yes, ma'am.
Something wrong with finances and then I would be the second one and we would. get a call
Absolutely.
later.
Absolutely.
All right.
Thank you so much.
That would be the logic. Yeah, that would be the logical thing. Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
All
You
right,
betcha.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
You too.
Fine.
All right.
Motion to accept.
So we had a motion. We had the support. Any further discussion with the board? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carries. Obviously, Chief, you can begin the processes there to move that out properly.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right, thank
And
you.
now go ahead, keep going.
Quick update on Officer Most. He's still in his FTO phase and he's at the end of phase 2. We'll be moving on to phase 3. Should be done in probably about another month. Doing very well and looking forward to getting him out on solo patrol. Number 5 there. With the resignation of our custodian, I found a replacement and I'm looking for the board's approval today to hire John Y. Brannick as the next custodian for the police department. He's completed and turned in his application and all the criteria that's to go with it. So he's basically good to go. So if you want to do that now,
I never thought I'd be looking to appoint an certainly overqualified individual PhD to.
you know,
All he wants to do, really.
But yeah,
he's just looking to stay active and,
Yeah.
I still keep in contact with him and I mentioned that, our custodian was leaving and he's like, I might be interested in that. And I'm like, well,
be blessed.
so
Yeah.
I gave him the job description and told him what it entails and he knows already, but, he, contacted me a couple weeks later. He's like, you know what? I'm interested in it. So,
Okay, which would bring us to our second motion for the day on the timeliness and the final one, I believe.
Yep.
It would be, I would entertain a motion to authorize Chief Mashinsky to hire John Roy Brannick to fill the open custodial position at Gerrish Township Police Department effective immediately as all requirements have been satisfied.
I'll make
For
that
those of you that
motion.
don't know, even as a custodial person, law enforcement information network training, you have to take a myriad of things for the state to even walk in the interior of the building because somebody's personal information might be laying on a desk somewhere. So it's a weird position. We're lucky to fill it every time we've had to. How many weeks you been vacant?
oh,
Quite a
probably
6
about
weeks?
8. I'd say about 8, close to it.
And Julie's been doing double duty for that.
Yeah. And we,
And
bless her
accreditation
for doing
manager
that. And
yeah.
we've all been trying to pitch in and,
Yeah.
take the garbage out here and there and make sure their toilet paper
It's difficult.
loaded up, but she stepped up and did a little extra cleaning. So
Yeah.
thank her for that.
Okay, so we had a motion
I'll make that motion. Yep.
by trustee
Okay.
Oppie and
Second.
second by Treasurer Anderson. Any further discussion, board? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. That motion carries. Thank you. Move on.
All right, thank you. I'll let him know he can start
Please do.
tomorrow.
With our pleasure.
Yes.
Sure he won't come back as a police officer yet. Oh,
No, I mean, maybe once he's back in the building, I can talk to him a little more.
yeah.
but,
You'd
You know,
be blessed.
we kind of joked around that like it'd be like Goodwill Hunting, like the equations would be done on the board and there'd be a search warrant sitting on somebody's desk done and ready, but but
Very good.
I
Thank
think
you.
he'll have fun with it too. So uh just quick update on Cadet Dylan Sherrill. We continue to work with him and the academy and MCOs to get him enrolled in the August 11th academy. He's scheduled for his reading, writing, and physical tests on June 10th. He's got everything else done with his doctor physical and drug testing and all that. So
I
that's the
want-
next piece.
Can I interrupt you to clarify? We've had some criticism from afar on that. This is the MCOLS is not the grant that we receive is not a scholarship to a high
That is
school
correct.
grant or otherwise. It's a part of the process of a hiring, and those people have to be vetted and qualified before we could offer those positions to even go through the academy, and before you even author the grant for the academy. Just for clarification.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry for the interruption.
Nope. Thank you for that clarification. So with that, once everything is met there, we can then move forward with applying for the grant and everything and getting that. We have to wait till he meets all the criteria to apply for it, but there still should be plenty of funding in there for that. And then just quick update on our recruitment efforts. We've attended a couple job fairs, one in an attempt to locate another to fill our last vacant position, but also to meet the accreditation standards. That's that part that we have to show that we are putting forth effort. So we went to Grayling Job Fair at the Eagles Club. We had some handouts and applications and stuff, and then we attended one at the Roscommon High School. They're both put on by Michigan Works. So we are trying. I've had a couple leads on a couple possibilities to either sponsor through the academy, and then a couple on people that are already licensed. So I'm following up with them, and hopefully maybe we can get that last spot filled. And if we have to put somebody else through the academy, we'll do that. But so things are looking up. We're on the right path and right direction, I think. I just want to follow up from the last monthly board meeting on 4/8 with Lori Andrews having the concerns about the Sheridan Drive walking trail with the residents planting grass and making comments to the citizens. I did follow up with Brad Gibson from the Sheridan Drive Association on that matter. And he assured me that he thought the issue had already been resolved, but he was going to put an email out to the association members and just reaffirm that you can't be saying stuff to people, and people have the right to walk there and that. So I did follow up with that. But number 13 there, this month the RAPS campuses was equipped with Zero Eyes, which is AI technology that they were able to use their current camera infrastructure and they got Zero Eyes through a grant. And what it does is it detects guns. So if subjects approaching the school with the gun has to be out in plain sight and visible. It can't be concealed, but it literally detects it within seconds, and then it's notified through Zero Eyes, who then will verify it through their camera systems and stuff. And then once they verify it, dispatch and school staff and SRO John Ellis, they have like an app on their phone that they're notified right away. Hey, somebody's at the Roscommon High School approaching with a gun. It's all within 3 to 5 seconds that happens. So, some great technology. I did print off a couple of brochures back there. It was a pretty big packet, so I'd only print a couple off. But if you want to take a look at that, it's back there for you. And then also on the school piece, I did meet with the superintendent, Kathy Erickson, to discuss the future of the SRO position. And I provided her with some figures on what it would cost to continue with the SRO position because she doesn't think that the grant will be available after February 2026. So, and we both agreed that we thought it would be a good idea that there was no gap in the end of the grant cycle to the end of the school year and then a new school year. So I provided with a number from February 2026 to the end of the school year in June 2026. I provided with that number what it would cost, and that's the school picking up 75% and us chipping in 25%, just like the grant is. And then also for the school year of 26, 27, I provided with the numbers for that, what it would cost. Um, she liked it. She said everything looked good. She was going to take it to the board and then draft up some contracts, two separate ones for the two different ones. And then we're going to retouch on it in the fall of 2025. And if everything looks good to the board and for them, we'll continue on with the SRO position.
Good news.
Yeah. Yeah, they love it.
Good news.
The school does, the staff, the parents, we do. I mean, it's a great thing for the community. So, would like to see it to continue on. And we'll just do on a yearly basis, depending on how their funding and stuff is. But so that's the plan with that. So there'll be more to come on it in the fall. So number 15 there, I attended the District 9 elections for the MACP 2025-2026 board representatives and alternates at the Shepherd Village Police Department. And I was voted as the alternate for District 9 to step in for the representative if she's not available. Georgia's the representative from Newaygo City Police Department. So I think a good way to get my foot kind of in the door with MACP, and I've been telling them I want to get more active with them. So
I want to thank you for continuing that.
Yeah.
It was very helpful to me during my time as a chief, and Gerrish Township is on the map at the state level, and I'm happy that you're going to continue to keep us on that map.
Yep. Thank you. Also with the Northern Chiefs, I attended the meeting at Audie's in Mackinac. And the number 17 there. While I was at the meeting, I got to listen to some of the other chiefs from the north talk about the ice storm and what they went through in the end of March there with the ice storm. And I think we were fortunate that we didn't get hit the way that they did. But listen to them talk and what they dealt with, it got me kind of thinking, they were running into problems with getting fuel and, wondering how to keep their emergency operations running and things. And I think it's just kind of for us to maybe get thinking about it, but like, what would we do if that happened here? And I don't know if you remember in 2018, we had the windstorm that came through and that only affected part of the county, but if the whole county's out and they ran into problems with gas stations that they couldn't get fuel, the hospital was on a backup generator that was ran on diesel. And so they're trying to figure out how to get a diesel truck in there to get fuel and stuff like that. So we have a resource right here in our township at the marina with the fuel tanks for the boats and stuff. Like in an emergency, if we had to, and we couldn't get fuel, I think we could go there to use that fuel to keep police and fire on. Obviously some of the fire equipment is on diesel, and I've talked to Chief Gilliam about it and kind of got her thinking about it too. And she's done a little bit of work on it.
Get with the Russ.
Yeah, I've talked to Russ also.
Good.
And kind of mentioned my thoughts. And he was actually going to check with his fuel pump guy to see what we might need to do just to, in a pinch to get fuel, so we can continue to provide services to our citizens. So it's just kind of get something thinking about, and Russ is going to kind of look into that. So just kind of want to bring that to you guys' attention.
It's unfortunate, but every tragedy, we learn something. We think we planned the best and we learned something, and that'd be a huge problem.
Right.
It creates having to drive many counties to get even fuel for patrol cars, fire trucks.
Yeah, a lot of the chiefs, they had to drive to different cities or a ways to get fuel. And then, like I said, they were trying to get fuel trucks in for themselves.
Yeah.
Some of them chiefs now are getting like some contracts put in place that says, hey, if something like this happens, this, Fick and Sons, they're going to bring us
And we're
a tanker,
priority.
you know what I mean? So, but it just kind of got me thinking, and we're kind of fortunate too in this county that our road commission is a little more advanced than other
Mhm.
counties with road commissions. And they might have, and I'm
sure.
going to have a conversation with the sheriff and under sheriff about it too, just to kind of get them thinking.
Sure.
But the road commission might be a resource down there too, because I'm pretty sure that they're on generators and
I think, I think it's good that we're looking at this from a township standpoint, but we have emergency management
Yep.
at a county level, and I think
Goodness.
they should be addressing it
yeah,
from that comprehensive viewpoint. What you just discussed would be part of maybe a bigger plan,
right.
because,
It
we
is.
got 12 townships that are
Well,
going
they
to have the
attend
same.
Regularly, the local planning.
Yeah.
team And local planning,
hmm
committee. And yes, there's no question that that is a global thing, but I will tell you, Jim, in 1995, everybody relied on Roscommon County when the wind downburst thing, whatever they call those things, came through. And they did not prop up an emergency management declaration, nor even the emergency operations center. And Gerrish Township was hung out to dry. And
hmm
at that time, we said, we have to have emergency management concepts in place for the first 36 hours because it will take nearly that to get your emergency management, emergency operations center up
Right.
and coming. That's why they're thinking local.
But I think
Every
that's
day.
great. I think you
So,
should, but I'm just saying that,
Yes.
that's changed from what it was. Back then, they had a contract with somebody from a whole different county coming in as emergency management on a part-time basis. We
Well,
now
actually,
have.
it was Bob Smith and he
Okay,
just
well,
didn't do it.
my point is it's
You're
different.
right.
We
You're
got a
right. The
different
person we
ballgame
have
now.
doing
Yeah.
it now is-
And I think that what you're saying is very important. I know like my church is one of the emergency
Shelters.
shelters.
Yeah.
And you're right. We got some great resources, but
Yep.
those are all part of a
Big plan.
puzzle
Right.
that would be at a county level is all I'm saying. I think, and I assume you or somebody from the department sits in on those emergency management meetings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'll plan on bringing it up to Vanessa, the EOC manager.
Yeah.
But like I said, it just kind of got me thinking and just kind of want to get everybody kind of thinking about it. Not looking for anything to be done right away or anything, but, um, but yeah, I just thought it would be good to look at.
Good idea.
Thank you.
Also, by your very own policies, Chief Mashimsky by default is our local emergency manager for Gerrish
Mhm.
Township. Just so you know.
This month we had Savage Plumbing and HVAC into the office. Our public toilet and the restroom quit working. So we had him come in and give us a price on it. And when he was looking in the bathroom there, found a couple things out of compliance with handicap rules and regulations. So the toilet was too low, but that toilet's over 20 years old, so it probably was in compliance when it was built. But so we got a new toilet, brought it up to the right height, and then the sink, the pipes weren't wrapped underneath with padding. So we had him go ahead and fix that and then replace the faucet, which is now ADA compliant. So just a couple little problems with the building being 25 years old plus, so just trying to stay on top of things. Officer Most was fitted for his new bulletproof vest with on-duty gear. Once we receive the vest and invoice, we'll submit for the 50% reimbursement grant through the OJP grant. Also this month, we purchased 4 new long guns to replace our very old long guns that we have. Our current Smith & Wesson M&P AR rifles are 14 years old, and our Remington 1187 12 gauge shotguns are 17 years old. Both of them are starting to show some sign of that. So we felt it was a good time to get them replaced. And the cost of that was $2,501.96. And we're able to save $1,250 with the trade-in on our old guns. So it wasn't too bad. And then, we started our spring 2025 junk and garbage cleanup and junk vehicle around the township. We found 22 properties to be out of compliance, so we'll have the officers start them, and they'll have 5 open cases. And then once they close one, they'll pick up another one until we can get the list done, and then we'll do it again in the fall. So,
List of those properties available or?
yeah, we post them at the office.
Yeah, okay.
And then the officers just go up to the list and fill in the ones that they're doing.
Okay.
So you're welcome to look at it if you want.
Yeah, I'll take a look.
Yeah, and if you have more, we can add on to them.
Just want to see if my place is on it.
Oh,
No commercial places are on it, it's a residential.
That's good.
yeah. Then this month I posted the road patrol sergeant position internally at the PD. Be looking probably next month to come with a recommendation for a promotion for that position. I have it open till May 8th next week, and then go from there, see if we have to do interviews and things like that. We have only had 2 candidates that can put in for it. I've received 1 letter so far. So we'll see if we get another one, and we'll be coming with more on that next month. We continue the drug drop, packaged up on April 7th, 41.6 pounds for destruction, which was taken Petoskey, then down to Grand Rapids for incineration. We opened up the 2025 dock permits. So far to date, we have 4 of them. We've been monitoring the road ends to make sure that none are being put in without the permit. And then when they do get in, that they're the way that they should be. We opened up the scrap metal project on April 14th. The guys took 1 load yesterday, got $250 about out of that load. And then the little donation box on the side, we've already taken out about $50 out of there. So seems like maybe metal's up a little bit, because I think last year the average price was like $120, $150 a load. So starting off good with that project. We had the annual Act Now bowling fundraiser, brought in just under $3,200, which was about $17 more than last year. Want to thank Julie for putting that together. Did a great job, and like she does with all our projects and fundraisers. And then also, I'd like to thank all the other volunteers that came out. I know Brian came out and helped that day, and we got to celebrate his birthday with him. So
Yes.
it was fun. We're doing another coffee with the cop at CAF 200 on the west side of the lake on May 16th from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. So if you guys can put that in your calendar and come out and have a coffee and pastry or donut, that'd be great. And let others know. Attended a 4th of July planning meeting yesterday at the state park for this year's 4th of July. We're going to go in like we did last year with another unified command. And similar to what we did last year, still the eviction period is going to be 96 hours. The park manager, Rachel, is going to put in for a alcohol ban, a temporary alcohol ban for that time. She's not sure if she'll get it. See if that can maybe help with some problems. And then we're going to put up some signage. We have some road signs this year that the park was able to get that we'll put out on the roads for no parking, and go ahead and do that again this year. And then Lieutenant Labani also held a law update class for the park rangers at the South State Park, just to kind of refresh their memories on different laws and things like that with marijuana, alcohol, and domestic violence, because they deal with a lot of that in the park. But other than that, that's all I have.
Board members, question? Okay, very good. Thank you, Chief.
As usual.
All right, thank you.
Keep up the good work.
Thanks.
Back to the top building with only Jason.
Morning, everybody.
Good morning.
The April building zoning activity. We had 9 building permits issued, 11 electrical permits, 8 mechanical permits, 3 plumbing permits, 6 land use permits, for a total of $5,748. We have 3 more ZBAs scheduled for this month. And there's another one working with the folks. That'll probably be in June. We've been busy with that board.
Didn't have hardly any last year. Now we got,
Yeah, went
Right out
from
of the
1
gate.
to 6 in the first 3 months. So
is that just happenstance or is that?
I guess so.
Okay, so there's
Yeah.
there's nothing's changed that has caused these things.
Not to my knowledge. No,
All
I
right,
just,
very good. Board,
Usual, just run of the mill stuff, just.
most of them are all existing non-conforming buildings that want to increase them in some way.
anybody have any questions on the building and zoning? Report from Jason? Anything else you'd like to tell us?
I think that's it, sir.
Very, very good. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Jane.
Russ, Marina. Good morning and welcome back to our work session.
Good morning.
That means the marina's open,
Wait, but
right? Nah, you're working. You're working.
Hey, sir. How's your day?
oh, it's been.
It's gonna get better, buddy.
Welcome back. Thanks, sir. No, okay, yeah. Not, I'll give you mine. Okay. The floor is yours, sir.
Get glued together there.
All right, this isn't real exciting, being that we just got started. But the docks were installed last weekend. That's done, out of the way. Hoists are in progress. We probably have about a third of them in the water already in their slips. Another 3 to 4 good days we'll complete that task. We only had two patrons not returning this year. Those obviously are filled from our 140 name list already. Waiting list is still huge. One inside, it's in the storage buildings. There we have launch and go boats in there, and one of those wasn't returning, and that's already filled. Everything's on schedule for opening May 17th. Weather's looking good between now and then, so we shouldn't have any trouble there. And we'll get the Carlos Park swim buoys installed. I'm sure it's going to be by May 17th also. Marina hours, we're going to keep the same hours that we had last year. Those worked out very well. We'll lengthen the open hours after Memorial Day, or closer to mid to late June. There's not really a lot of activity before that to warrant staying open for the extended hours, but late June through Labor Day we'll stay open later. To follow up on the chief's comments about the fuel, I've got Northern Pump coming on Monday or Tuesday to hook us back up for the season, and I'll chat with them then about what the best way and the safest way to try to get fuel out of those tanks in the winter time would be when we're closed. Other than that, we're working on building a marina.
Those tanks typically have fuel in them in the winter?
They do. Yeah, we typically have at least half tank in there. Yeah.
How many lunch and go sites? You mentioned, how many lunch and go sites can you handle?
We have 8 outdoor and we have 8 indoor. And those we store the boat on the property. They call when they're ready to come down. We take the tractor, launch it for them, and when they come, they call before they're ready to come back in to shore. We get the trailer and put it and get it ready for them, and they just drive on and we put them away.
That maxed out the number that you could accommodate or?
It is, yeah.
Board members? I only have one, as we're trying to, as you know, Russ, we've been meeting with you and Lori and whatever there. And I've heard it now for a year, better than a year, about this wait list that's out there.
Yeah.
Can we get a copy of the wait list?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
On this and the wait list? I guess if you have one for the inside launch and go too, just for our edification here.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I'll get
And,
that to you this
That would
week.
be my only, as we
Yeah.
we have good processes.
Yeah. We're at the
This is
point.
kind of a process year again on the marina and some of the exterior things. And, I last year I just kind of sat back and just watched and because there was so much other stuff to do. And this
Right.
year now I think we can maybe start looking at some of those exterior, not just yours, but
Yeah.
the township.
Yep.
So the board is has better knowledge of.
Well, I think once we get opened and get cleaned up and
Yeah,
cleaned up, I'll have you all get down there and we'll
Super.
walk through it and
Thank you.
Yeah,
Appreciate
it
it.
was kind of, because I never really spent any time there until
Right.
Brian and I went out for a different reason, but and we are, from my office standpoint, we're reevaluating and changing to, I hope for the better,
For the better,
the
hopefully.
accounting system, and possibly even the way we bill out slips in the fall to make it more efficient and get easier on you and easier on the taxpayers. So
Right.
I'm kind of excited about
yeah, good. Appreciate
where
your
we're
help.
going
Yeah.
with it. So
Okay. Any further comments, board? Russ, we'll let you get back to work.
Thank
Or
you.
drinking coffee, whatever it was you were doing.
Whatever it was I was doing, more paperwork and doc layouts.
Thank you so much, my friend.
Take care.
Okay.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Good.
Chief Gilliam. Good morning.
How's everybody?
Good.
Good. So this month has been a little bit slower than our average. Usually run about 41 calls, we only ran 39 for this month. However, we are above average for the year to date. We were at 164 this time last year. Now we're at 180. Even though our call volume was low, we've done more training hours this month than we have in the past. We've had 113 training hours versus usually in the 80s or 90s. So we may not be busy running calls, we're busy doing training or spending time out in the community. So different for training this time. We're actually helping Markey Township Fire and EMS. They're going through their EMR class, their emergency medical responder. They took the class, they passed the class, they're getting ready to take the state test. They weren't very confident going into this, so they asked us for help. So our instructors have been working with them 2 nights a week for a couple hours a night, trying to get them prepared for this test. So we've been kind of helping them out, which is new. We don't usually do that. They've also approached us to help them with their monthly EMS continuing education credits. The agency that was doing theirs before has not been able to fulfill it, and they need them. So we've been kind of stepping up to help fill that role. They seem to enjoy our instructors, so that's a good thing. Community involvement. We've been out in the community for about 50 hours this month, pretty significant. We also attended the Michigan Works Job Fair at Grayling and at the high school. We did pretend the Act Now bowling tournament fundraiser, and we didn't come in last place. We beat the sheriff's department, so that was kind of our goal. So that's awesome. We had $14,000 grant came back from our second set of turnout gear, so that's been taken care of. I don't know if you guys have noticed, we have the red lights out on the bay doors. The reason why we have that is called Light the Night Red, and it's for fallen firefighters that have died in line of duty. It's a week-long thing, so we're participating. And it turns out, I guess the village has all their lights red going down the main strip, so it's kind of neat. Significant events for the 2024-2025 school year, we have certified 103 Roscommon High School students in CPR. This is new this year. We've not ever had a certified class. So considering this is the first year, 103 students is pretty significant.
very good.
So the kids like it. We're also doing bleeding control and first aid with them as well. The bleeding control has gone over really well. A lot of the comments is, how often are we gonna use this? Are we gonna have these kind of violent incidences? But they're learning now it can be from car accidents, chainsaw accidents, out and about. It doesn't necessarily have to be a act of violence. It can be everyday activities. Significant events also, one of the things I do is I like to recognize our employees for things that go well. We see a lot of tragedy. So it's really nice when we actually get to see things that make us feel good. We got a kudos from one of our residents who came in pretty sick and said that our crew is always professional and it makes them feel like family. The crew on that was Matt Wooten and Brandon Rogers. We received another one from a lady who came in. She was a little panicked, had some tire issues, and she was trying to go get her tire fixed. It was too low and she was afraid she wouldn't make it. So our crew under duty actually filled her tire for her before she left. That was Neil Dopp and Josh Sandberg. One of the big things I want to mention is we had a special delivery on April 21st. Crew members went out approximately 5 o'clock in the morning for a female in labor. Patient delivered a baby in her home with assistance from the crew. Baby and mom are good and healthy. Baby girl, they were transported to the hospital with no complications. The crew on this is Neil Dopp, Mike Stimpian, and Brandon Rogers. I do have stork pins coming from them. However, I kind of want them to tell you a little bit about it. I guess the look on their face and the way they've been running around here floating over the last couple of weeks is pretty impressive. Again, we don't ever see anything good. Normally it's tragic. So these big bringing life into the world is kind of exciting for them, not for me. So if you guys tell us what you know. Come on up here, guys. I'll let them help them.
So, good morning. How is everyone? I'll sit down first. The interesting part about our job is, we work a full 24-hour schedule, right? So at any point in the day, we need to be available. I can tell you that the adrenaline rush at 4:52 in the morning when you get called that says, hey, you have an active woman in labor, it'll wake you up really fast. So we showed up on scene and mom or patient's mother was outside with another toddler. Dad's on the porch, as white as that, wall over there, said, please, please, please go in there. Mom is, screaming away as we're talking. She says, it's coming. I said, let's just take a deep breath here. We'll see where we're at. And sure enough, here comes baby. Baby came out happy, healthy. The interesting part about childbirth is mother does all the work, right? For those that have children, moms do all the work. All we have to do is not drop the baby. And sure enough, we didn't drop the baby. So, happy, healthy, 10 fingers, 10 toes, and a loud, strong cry. So as a paramedic on an emergency situation, you can't ask for anything better. So cool. Yeah, it was a good one. It was definitely a good one.
Even though they say
It is absolutely.
And this was in a bathtub, is that right?
It was in a bathtub, yes. Nope. They were in there. Every home delivery that I've been a part of, mom has been in the bathtub. I think it's a moment of panic, and what do we do? So,
what's it like?
That's a good time.
But not only that, the comfort to the mother to know that you were there in confidence, right? It's fantastic. Thank you.
I think another note, is that with this scenario is understanding that railings will be closing in about a year, probably, and so.
You may see more.
Yes. Some type of scenario.
Fantastic. That's what you train for, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So when people hear training and they're like, why are you doing that for? That's what it's for. Maybe once in a whatever that'll happen.
And once it's fast too. I think I got on schedule or on scene at 4:49 and baby just delivered at 4:51.
Yeah.
I mean, it was
Fantastic.
It was there.
Congrats, guys. Thank you so much.
Good job.
The unfortunate part is there's communities in northern Michigan where that would never happen. They would be
Oh,
whole
no.
different
Right.
story.
That's Yes,
I
absolutely.
don't think we could have picked a better crew. That hands down was, I think, the best crew to deliver it. All three of them did an amazing job. And like I said, just watching them come back and still talk about it, it makes me happy. Better them than me. I don't want to ever do it. Oh, yeah. So department activities, Josh Thompson has been working. We have him back there. Josh, you want to stand up? That's Josh Thompson. He's our new guy. So far he's fitting in pretty well, and I think he likes us. So he keeps coming back. Brandon just completed the retrogression plan and it's been submitted, so we're all set there, right, Brandon?
Or get the documentation that need to be submitted by the end of next week, so I'll have that.
That is the ISO piece that a few months ago we got notified about. Thank you for attending to it.
So upcoming events, we had some of our ICs go to a conference and they met with this doctor who does special needs training. And they were pretty impressed with what she did there. So we're trying to get her in and bring her here to train for our county. It helps with understanding the challenges, communications, and the FAQs with people with special needs and try to differentiate special needs versus mental health. So we're going to kind of work on that and see if we can bring her here in October. That's going to be held here. We can have it here.
Awesome.
We have the state fire investigator coming to our county firefighter association meeting, which is also being held here in May. And talk to us a little bit more about scene preservation. We've had a lot of fires so far this year, so the more we can learn about scene preservation, the better. So that's coming up too in May. I had a meeting with Lyon Township Fire and EMS Chief, JC, and he has been talking to a group. It's called Neighbors United and they basically are fundraisers for firefighters who've been affected by cancer during the job. I sent you guys some information on the back, and it kind of talks about what they are. This is a new group to me. I've never actually heard of them until just recently. They're going to come up and do a walk in June from the AMVETS to Lyon Township Hall, where they're going to have a pancake breakfast on the Saturday. And then the next day, they're going to do a side-by-side ride from Lyon Township Hall to Fireman's Memorial. Not really sure how they're going to do that, but they're planning it. JC is going to come to our firefighter association meeting and talk about what we can do as fire departments to help in this. I kind of would like to see some of our guys walk in this. They walk with turnout gear on, not with their boots, but they use regular tennis shoes. It's a really good cause. We've never really had anything like that up here, so we're going to be involved in that. I think we're also going to do a hot dog stand of some sort during the route of the ride, and all the proceeds are going to go to these families that have been affected by cancer with fire service.
I expect it on a weekend or?
It's going to be on a weekend in June. It's not the sunrise run. It's the end of that. Once I get more information,
Perfect.
I'll let you guys know.
Perfect.
EMS Appreciation Week is coming up May 18th through 24th. So when you see our EMS personnel, make sure you appreciate them. I think EMS is one of those that doesn't get a lot of appreciation. They're there for tragic events, and I don't think they get the credit or the recognition they should. They always say, oh, you get paid to do this. It's your job. But it takes a really big toll on you mentally, physically, and emotionally when you are dealing with somebody else's tragedies, when you have your own life to deal with. So when you see them, make sure you appreciate them. I am actually doing something special for our crew. I do every year. I can't say what it is because they're here.
Right.
So other than that, that's pretty much it for this month. Stay tuned for the more exciting month of June.
Good morning. That was a nice, bright, sunshiny report.
I'm telling you, I said this is going to be a good one. I'm trying to be more positive.
Absolutely. You know what? And I have to tell you, every morning she comes in and says hi, and I really appreciate that. It helps lighten up our atmosphere as things get repressive from time to time, because usually we only hear the worst. We don't hear the best.
So I'm trying to be bright and shiny and say good morning and wait till you see all my summer bright colors. You're going to be pretty surprised.
So, board, do you have anything for Christy? Anything else?
Good.
Other than just keep up the outstanding work. Really appreciate, and I like some of your new thoughts, and keeping that positive spin on it is a way to keep everybody engaged and also a better workplace. So thank you.
We have a great team. We couldn't do it without them.
Absolutely.
So,
Thank you. Thank you all out there. I appreciate everything. All right, we're on to Parks and Recs update. You all should have gotten an email that included a committee report. And I do see that Susan is on board here, so we can get her activated so we can hear her. She is the Parks and Recs Chair, and the floor is yours, Susan.
Thank you. Hi, guys.
Thank
Can you
you.
hear me okay?
Yes.
Perfect. Thanks. I will run through some of the highlights on this report real quick just to see if you have any questions. And then there might be a few extra little comments from Mary Jo at the end. But just to let you know what we've been doing so far, we've been off to a quick start in this first month. And a little bit of carryover from last year and some new things moving forward. So as you all know, we talked about it last meeting, that 5-year rec plan is posted now. We're confirming that we have access to the email box and we haven't seen any comments yet, but that will just be out there until your June 10th meeting. The just an update on the Township Park DNR grant construction project. That work is all completed, and I just gave you a little quick summary of the finances there. I still have a little bit more to request for reimbursement. $7,800 is an invoice to us, and then that 14,800, that's what they held back from the first time we requested a reimbursement. So we'll get $22,000 still remaining to be reimbursed to us probably in June. I'll probably request that end of May, beginning of June. So the project came in at about 198,197, and I have little squiggly marks there because I don't have the final bill from Prian yet. There's a couple of estimates in here, but it will be about $1,000 less than our original plan, but very close to the 200K that we estimated. In our last Parks Committee meeting, we talked about having a little press event, a grand reopening of sorts, to be held at that park on May 24th at 10 a.m. just to get that in the paper, reacquaint the residents with the new things that are there, and make a little to-do of it in celebration of the completion of the project. Does that sound okay with all of you guys?
Sounds fine to me.
Yep.
Make sure you get me something.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Sounds fine to me, Susan. Just make sure you get me something for the grand opening for the website, Facebook, that kind of thing.
Will
When
do.
you're ready.
Yep, will do. Then outside of the grant project itself, there's a few other little things that we're doing at that township park. And one of them is to install a new drinking fountain. And I just snapped a little picture of it there, just so you guys see that's the kind of thing we're looking at, just a very simple external mount on the outside of the bathroom building, as well as we're going to put some shelves and hooks and storage and benches in the storage room, as well as the changing room. Those are just not actually construction pieces, but last bits that we need that fall outside of the grant itself. The committee is looking to bring in some sand to refresh that beach. And Mary Jo's made some calls on that, and we'll expect to move forward on that pretty quickly too. Regarding, again, still at the Township Park, the water accessibility options, we discussed several possibilities and had a little pro-con spreadsheet made up with pictures and stuff. And I spoke with Susan Overset, who is one of the community residents who is an advocate for this and has been reaching out. We had a great conversation earlier this week, and I think the committee and Susan are in alignment that at this point, our recommendation would be to move forward with a Moby mat only and not to acquire any wheelchair devices that would complement that. The Moby mat will solve the majority of the mobility issues that we would have at the park to allow both wheelchairs to move on it, as well as people with canes or other mobility issues. So that's the option I would like to go with. Cost on that would be $3,300 to get us about the 75 feet we need from the end of the boardwalk into the water. So actually, even though I didn't ask for it, that is something that I would like a authorization to go ahead and purchase. If we can get that pretty quickly, we might even have it in time for the May 24th event.
Would you like to have a motion for that at this point?
That'd be super.
Yeah, we can do it. Well, we can. It's May 12th. You're 2 weeks away. Remember, this is a late board meeting.
So
Okay, so you could do it at the board meeting though, is what you're saying?
Well, I'm asking at this point to the board, we really
Oh.
only address timely issues if we have to, like we did for Chief Mashinsky operationally. And if this Moby Mat thing has been, marked around for a bit here. And is that something the board wants to wait till May 12th to authorize the expenditure of the 3,300? Or is that something that we want to gain the 2 weeks to 12 days? Or what do you want to do?
Well, I think this isn't just an authorization to pay a bill. This is authorization to make an order.
That's correct.
So,
Yeah.
If we can't, if the timeliness is not there to 2 weeks or 10 days or whatever.
12 days.
That next meeting, 12 days. To do that, then we probably should make the motion to allow them to pursue the encumbrance of that money. Because, and that would include the sand and the drinking fountain as well. That's.
Let me interrupt you.
Well, go ahead.
I have an opinion. And I would rather see money put towards doing the whole chair and Moby mat than spending $900 on a drinking fountain. I think in the world we're living in today, a drinking fountain is really a moot point. I don't think people use drinking fountains. That's $900.
Could I make a comment on that though? That's a different fund group, Michelle. That's a different fund group. The things that I have listed there in non-grant projects, that's actually coming from some funds that were allocated for Chase that he didn't spend. So we have a budget of $3,000 to finish those things that I am talking about there, the hooks and the benches and the drinking fountain, plus his labor to install that. That's separate, and that money is already accounted for. So it's not like I cannot move that.
But you said it's not part of the grant. It's not part of the grant.
It was part of
It was part of your original plan, but not part of the grant.
It was part of what it got in. The original grant funding was estimated more than we needed. So Chase didn't spend it all, but these items were not articulated in the grant, so could not be reimbursed by the grant itself. So, and it's kind of hard to explain, but
would we be getting reimbursed this money back that we're spending, this $900?
Yes. So it's part of the reimbursement, but I'm just talking about the actual tactical way that we spend it is different than what we depicted in the grant. But yes, the money, all that money is running through the grant.
Sounds a little confusing.
I can share a little bit more offline with some details.
It's confusing.
Well, go ahead.
Is the 3,300 in the budget?
Is there budget money for it? Well, initially the Moby Mat last year was quoted to me anyways for budget consideration on construction 2,500. But there is money in that budget to certainly accommodate the Moby Mat. My comment on the wheelchair pieces is I hope the discussion is not done with just the Moby Mat. I think that that in the coming year, next year or otherwise, we as part of the plan, get the complete ADA piece there with some type of a chair that goes with that. That'll also get us time to consider moving, where storage for everything that gets acquired. Type thing as well. So I'm not looking to step in the middle of the.
Please don't mistake me either.
Moby Mat issue. If that's been discussed with the gal that is certainly passionate about it, for the Moby Mat, that you do that and it's satisfactory for this year to do the Moby Mat, then I'm not opposed to it. So And the sand is $600, and I might remind you all, that doesn't even hit the threshold for a board member, even under your old policy and Mary Jo is our liaison, so that would be an operational thing Mary Jo could get done.
That, and I guess that's where I was leading up
Yep.
to is irregardless of whether there's a grant or where the
Right.
funding comes
Right.
from,
Correct.
we have a protocol.
Yes.
So, and what Brian's saying is that you as the liaison would have the ability within the grant, or I'm sorry, within the budget,
Correct.
if it was budgeted, to authorize to go forward with
Yes.
purchasing something if it's under $1,000.
Currently.
Assuming it's, because it's still got to come to the board to vote on, but you have the ability to encumber the township based on the fact that it's in the budget. Something like the mat would require the board approval before the purchase of it. So that's where I'm at with it. Irregardless of whether there's a grant or not, we still have our own.
No, and I'm just
protocol.
saying that
Oh,
I wasn't clear on the drinking fountain piece being under the grant or not, because if we were paying for it out of pocket, in my opinion, I would rather see that money that we as a township are spending to go towards.
well,
The full deal.
I went to the park the other day with Brian because I have not been there for years. And so I wanted to get a feel for what's out there. Now, you need potable water to be able to drink, while you're there. And if a lot of people may buy plastic, refillable, like to have their water rather than bringing bottled water that you use and throw away the bottle. And having a drinking fountain, assuming that it's got the ability to get filled water bottles. I don't know what's there. I can't recall if there's even a drinking fountain
White.
there.
White ceramic or whatever they call that, like
But
bullets are made of.
if that was part of the original plan, I don't have a problem with it. I think it's important to have the facility to be able to do that. But I just want to make sure going forward, because I will hold your hands to the fire when it comes to the process.
Mhm.
Okay? Because the park is a committee, you're the liaison. You have certain amount of authority. Beyond that, it's got to come to the board for approval, even if it's in the budget. Okay?
No matter the amount?
No, well, if it's under $1,000
Yeah.
and it's in the budget,
Yeah.
but our budget is only, we did not specify line by line in there. So,
Right.
if you're gonna err on the side of caution and talk to the board,
Right.
it's,
Fur-
it's,
further-
unless it's an emergency thing,
Right.
it should have enough time
Mhm.
to be able to do that,
So we're going to have further discussion on that very issue on the policy change, Gerrish Township purchase limits. As you recall, I have said this has been well over a year now. And this doesn't have Parks and Rec specific, it's general township here in this building. And hardly anything is $1,000 anymore, or less than 1,000. And when you encumber yourself to have to come to the board to say, okay, it's replacing a sand at $600, you set 60 days in board words because you're coming to essentially a discussion and then another meeting and that kind of thing. And so board members as liaisons need to have some latitude to be able to get things done. And I have found, why I'm interjecting, I have found in dealing with our aging infrastructure in this building, there's nothing less than $1,000. It doesn't usually rise to 5,000, but there's nothing less. And if we budgeted for those things, the approval to budget or to do the approval to do another approval doesn't make any sense to me. If it's in the line item and the board liaison has the authority, I think the board always has to be informed. And I agree with you, if there's ever any, I want to say doubt, or you should come to the board, no question. So this is kind of, it's this one is kind of the cart before the horse situation, because we got to talk about that. You quite literally put, it makes no sense to have a couple budget sessions, do another one before the public. The line items are there, and we assign Mary Jo as the board liaison to the Parks and Recs. And then to make her come back to the board to say, yeah, I want to spend $600 to put sand to refresh the beach is redundancy to me. And because of the amount.
Right.
Currently, right now, you do have that policy that the chief of police and the chief of the fire department may spend up to $5,000 without coming to the board because they've already established their budgets. And at that time, they never adjusted the township offices for the same thing. It says $1,000. And so there's where we got kind of an issue. Yes, I think a Moby Mat or a 3,300, whatever there, it's a brand new piece. It's not a replacement. It's not whatever. And then, sure, I think to cover everybody, you should have a motion to do that. I'm with you on that, but I'm not with you on currently of making Mary Jo come back to this board for $600. Does it make sense?
I'm in agreement with it, but I will say
Okay.
that, you know, the number that we came up with for the park this year, in my estimation, was an arbitrary number. It was
Sure.
we just came up with, I think it was $30,000.
Well, that
There's
was arbitrary
no
before we got.
There was but there was no specification of what's in there. You know what I mean? So when you say budgeted,
Yeah.
I have no idea what's budgeted for the year because we just created a budget.
You don't know
in
the
total.
specific.
Yeah. So my thought is, okay. And I get it. If you need sand and it's something you do every year, yeah, that's routine.
Yeah.
But I'd like to at least know, if the park's got some idea where they're planning on spending the money this year. It'd be great to have that information prior to, just walking in and say, hey, we're going to do this or that. And then you're going to have this potential dissension about what,
So
do we all agree on it or not? So that's all I'm saying.
So Susan's got her hands up, and I know she's going to go down to additional projects anticipated they'd like to complete, which is kind of the plan within whatever the money was, I'm sure. Am I accurate, Susan?
Yes, and I can get back with Jim Anderson on that because I have drafted how I imagine that 30,000 will be spent this year, given what I'm calling standard annual expenses like a park attendant, maintenance supplies, the porta potty that gets charged to this account. So I have an estimate of those things by line item, and I'll share that with you because I actually wanted to show that to you. I don't know if I'm thinking about this in the same way you would be thinking about it. So let me
Well, Susan,
with
as a
you
committee
offline.
chair, we need to do that. The committee, your committee is a chair that is a committee that recommends, and then the board does its thing with it. That would be good. Obviously, we all know we were flying pretty blind coming into the budget cycle. We're now not blind any longer. We're ready to look at everything. We have the treasurer has done a fantastic job of getting things what I call back in order, and we're as he said, the processes are now starting to flow. What I think would be a business process, and what Jim does too, and it is we're able to start getting to some of those things now this year. No one should take offense for anything. This is just what we're doing moving forward. So on that, so I'm going to refocus us back to the issue. So Susan is suggesting that the Moby Mat be purchased. I can tell you that I know for a fact, Susan, in my predication of budget and on expenses, when I tore everything down and put it back together, I was told 2,500. That's not to mean that I won't agree to spend, because I think we need to work this and get it accomplished.
I can tell you the difference. The 2,500 was for 50 feet. It was later actually measured. We need 75. So I need an extra section. I need a 50 plus a 17 foot.
Yep.
Brings the price up to 3,300, including shipping.
Yeah. No whatever intended on my part.
Sure.
I understand how that happens.
Yep.
I do.
Yep.
So, the question then becomes again, before we got off into our conversation, and are you clear on the drinking fountain issue that you brought up? Is there something more you want to say about it? Is it something that you want to have on record you're not for, that we make a motion to or don't?
So one thing, Michelle, that we,
I don't understand. I come from a different.
You can have them both.
say that again?
Susan?
I'm saying you can have both the Moby mat and the drinking fountain.
Just a
minute.
Sorry, I guess I had my mic off.
Yeah, she had her mic
Okay,
on. Hang
sorry.
on, Susan. Okay, go ahead,
Go ahead,
Michelle.
Michelle.
She has the floor.
I say I come from a different place of understanding priorities, because looking at your list of additional products, I don't understand the importance of installing a spinner at the municipal park over doing this, again, the Moby mat and chair piece, to getting it, the whole piece taken care of.
I can comment on
And the
that.
drinking fountain piece, no, you didn't clarify that for me. You're
Right.
very not clear on
Okay.
explaining how that's part of the grant, but it's not part of the grant.
Okay. I will go back to that and then also comment on why the spinner might be something that's a little different way to think about it than the chair. What happened with the grant? So it's all under the context of the grant. We are built a project that's like $200,000. Chase had estimated more money than he needed for the surfacing. Okay, so for the playground surfacing, that mat substance, so to the tune of about $3,000. So we've already submitted though to the grant for the surfacing, and then he said, I didn't use all that money. So what he said is, why? And we had extra items that we wanted to do at the park that didn't get included in the original grant write-up, because that was written up a year and a half. We had wanted to put in hooks and shelving, and we had wanted to update the drinking fountain, but they did those things neglected to get articulated in the grant write-up. So when Chase noted that he had extra money allocated for the surfacing that he didn't use for surfacing, he suggested that the township could use that money for those other things. So that's why I say they're outside the construct of the grant. For instance, I don't have to take a picture of the drinking fountain and show it to the DNR, because I never told the DNR we were going to do that. But because Gerrish Township would like to do that, Chase is saying we'll use those funds for the other park related things that are outside the official grant write-up. So that's why I'm saying we have the money allocated for those things through the grant. It's just hanging out there now. So that's why that's what those little pieces in the middle. That's why we do have the $800 for the drinking fountain and the plumber to install it, etc.
There won't be a
Does
problem
that help a
with
little bit?
there won't be a problem in any way to just use the money for something other than what we stated we were using it for?
You don't need it.
I don't think so. It was grant related. It kind of fell in the confines of it. I don't think that's an issue.
Where's the invoice for this go to get paid? The DNR or to this office for this drinking fountain?
No, the invoice won't go to the DNR, because I said we already basically have asked for that money through the surfacing. Let me figure that out, Jim. I'm not sure. I don't know that there will be an invoice, quite honestly. That's what I want to get back with Chase, because he thinks he owes us that money because we put it through the grant and he didn't do the work at the park. So he owes us $3,000 worth of effort.
How about we do this? Susan, can you work on I guess something with that drinking fountain thing and maybe come back to it in June?
Yes.
And maybe we can get some clarification rather than trying to hammer it out here. You can get with the state. I think what I'm hearing is that we're not deviating what the state said we could have and doing something else with it. We want to make sure it's above board on that piece. And I'm not accusing you of not being above board, just the clarification piece, okay? I think that's
Okay.
what I'm hearing.
Okay.
Am I wrong, board?
No, that
Is that
is
what I'm hearing?
absolutely correct.
Okay, so what, if you could do that for us at our, for our next work session, that'd be wonderful. You and your board, and then let's move to this Moby mat.
Let's at least get the Moby Mat motion.
If
And-
we're gonna do that, why don't we just include the 600 to cover that anyways?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, we're
That's
here
fine.
anyways
If we're
today.
gonna-
but
Yeah. let's
I'm
just
sure you
make
haven't called for it
We don't
yet.
have
We
to
just
make a
talked.
I
about
called for
it.
estimate.
You don't
yeah,
have to.
but you
but
haven't got
it's right
back.
Here, let's do it.
Okay.
But one
Right, so-
thing about this, uh,
Go ahead.
and I don't know that whole, paper trail. But if Chase saved us money on,
Mhm.
Getting the surfacing at a better price.
Mhm.
Mind you, he uses this park. He has got kids, he wants it to be nice too. He saved us money. Why can't we use it?
Well, there's more to that.
Is it?
I-
Okay, it has to be
I-
all,
Yeah, I understand what she's talking about.
Yeah.
I do too.
I do too. It came
I
in
get it.
over and then he agreed to adjust his price within the
Mm-hmm.
grant. And there was, you can also look at that as a part of the township's money was 52 something
Yeah.
in the match area there.
Yeah.
So it's
Back to the
which pot of
township.
money did it come from?
Yeah,
And if it came from
exactly.
our pot of money, then it's probably not as foggy as people are thinking,
Mhm.
but just some clarification, I think would be great. And I don't see where waiting till the next meeting is a big problem. And to get the better communication, clarification and that process. And that
Right.
being said, on the Moby mat, Jim, I have no problem with it. So we were estimated at $600 on the sand. Is that going to be enough of an estimate? Because I'm about to make a motion
oh,
to
well, she hasn't,
authorize up to at a certain amount for the purchase of the Moby mat and to also include refreshing the beach sand,
right,
which I think will satisfy everybody here. Correct?
right.
Okay.
Danielle from Scott's has not, she's the one that writes up these estimates.
Mhm. Yes.
She's not done with it. She doesn't, but it's a
Based-
ballpark figure.
Based on history.
The last time we
what
did
was
it was like $598, so maybe it's.
Susan, you concur about that?
650.
About
Sure.
598, 600?
Yeah, I found the old receipt.
I'd like to, I'm
Invoice,
gonna
whatever.
put a motion on the table to authorize the purchase of the Moby mat at the quoted 3,300. And that also that up to, do you need more than the 3,300, Susan? Yeah,
Shipping.
yeah, exactly.
I don't think so. I think I've estimated shipping. It's tough though. I mean, put in an extra $100 on each one of those things just to give me some fluff. If
Thank you. That's
you know,
where
I'm
headed.
trying to be realistic.
So I would make the motion that.
Wait, 1 second.
Yep.
Because there might be, you might want to include in the other motion. So I hope I'm not stepping on your toes, Susan.
No, not at all.
Down further, you'll see we want this new spinner at the park on Carlos is awesome. I don't know if y'all have been at spinners. I've been in a lot of playgrounds in the last 3 years. You can't even hardly push the suckers. Anybody with grandkids out there, this one is awesome. It is so great. Well, it's on sale. They're run around 10 grand. Right now we can get one for $6 grand. They're still on sale. And I hope they're still on sale by May 1st, because Chase told me this a couple weeks ago. And I would love to have one out here. We have not had new playground equipment out here. I've been here. This is my 5th year. We did the pickleball courts and all that, which is awesome, but we don't have nothing new. And it's an awesome spinner.
Well, the problem here is I don't see anything on here either for the.
It's our
The bark that needs to
additional.
be renewed out here. My only reticence with that is if, again, I think Susan, if you could supply us with that piece you were going to.
Yes.
That I think we fly more informed on even your spinner and those things. And I understand it's on sale. I don't want to be begrudging. I keep this, I'm not,
Right.
you're not hearing that I don't like Parks and Recs.
Right, I know that.
I just,
know that.
don't want to blindly do things. It's taxpayer money. And so, I mean, I'm willing if somebody wants to, but I probably not in favor of doing the spinner now.
That's a knee-jerk thing, and
Yep.
this is,
Yes.
I think what Susan was laying out here for us, which I appreciate, is
Yes.
here's what we're thinking about for the season.
Mhm.
I understand it's on sale, but maybe it'll still be on sale later, but the only reason I never make a motion or accept a motion in today's in this forum is in something that's time-sensitive, emergency type thing. And that spinner is part of, I think, I haven't heard from your committee that this is what you want out of your money that's being allocated
No.
for this
And
year.
it all
I
just
don't-
transpired that it went on sale or that.
Yeah, I understand that, but it's just this.
Okay.
I think it makes sense to, Mary Jo, I'll have it in as a line item in that budget that I
Okay.
show you and Jim, and you can see where it fits in, and then you guys can talk about it next time.
Right.
Sounds good.
Works. But so I'm going to return back and I make a motion that we authorize the purchase of the Moby mat for up to $3,400. And in the same motion also to authorize up to $800 to refresh the beach sand. For the total of, what is that? 34 and 8, $4,200. $4,200. I would make that motion. Anybody willing to
I'll second it.
support it? Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed, the same. Motion carried. Continuing on, Susan.
Thank you. And before I continue on that last little section, Chief, can I ask you what you mentioned, that you don't see anything written on here about bark that needs to be replaced? Are there other things that you guys know of that are park expenses that maybe we didn't do last year, so I wouldn't have seen them in a budget?
Yeah, the playground area last year needed to be.
Oh, the surfacing.
Yeah.
You mean playground surfacing? Okay,
Yeah, that needed to be done last year.
got it.
I'm only aware of that because my township hall custodian, when we were budget planning, because again, I met with everybody on budget planning and that was on the radar. And that needed to get done and that falls under Parks and Recs. And so and you and I know did not talk about that when I met with you before you left.
Right.
So it's just a matter of, it's a different way of budgeting. I understand it. And everybody's going to learn to communicate. That's what we need to do. So
That's great.
Thank
I
you,
will,
Steve.
we'll bring that back into the committee and look up estimates
Okay.
for that and get that in there too. Thank you.
Mhm.
So, the road commission thing real quick. Thank you, Mary Jo and Brian. You already arranged to have the road commission acknowledge that they're going to handle a couple stumps there.
Yes.
So, additional things that in our very first parks meeting this year, we talked about these things at the bottom of the list, and now we're going to add surfacing at Municipal Park and maybe a few other things. But we talked about cleaning up several trees that are laying on the walking trail at the Municipal Park. And I
Yep.
know there's, we had talked about getting some volunteers together who are willing to do that. And so
Yes.
there's a volunteer form that is being reviewed right now to see if we can just have residents sign that and then go help us move the wood.
The answer to your question is as of yesterday, I've never seen the form that was given to me by Mary Jo, although it was authored in July of 23. I'm suspecting you may have authored that, correct? Okay.
I
I only
used a
wanted to make
state
sure
form.
that the whole harmless language for for folks coming out to volunteer. I'm not opposed to volunteers doing that. I think I was out there with my grandson about 2 weeks ago, and you can't even find those trails, yet we are advertising them on our 5-year plan. So we need to, you know what I mean? It's
Yep.
there and whatever. So we do have Michelle did some digging and found our volunteer form that we actually have. We do have one. And so we're all ready to accept that and get those folks when they come here to sign those hold harmlesses, and then they can do their volunteer work out there on the North Trail.
Great. That's super. Thank you.
Sure.
Adding a toddler swing to the Marina Park, it was something that was noted last year and we did not accomplish at that time. Same as the next one, create a tennis wall for single play or practice at the municipal park. It was discussed, it was envisioned and planned for, but never executed. Possibly purchasing that spinner. I do understand what Mary Jo is talking about. It's a very cool piece of equipment that would be great at the municipal park. We'll look into it a little bit more, see how it fits into the budget and talk about that next time. We're looking into a free lending library that could be installed at the township park at Carlos.
Mhm.
And I'd also like to work with the committee and Jim Anderson to figure out a budgeting approach for how do we determine how to identify money to hold year over year for capital expenses and repairs.
Sure.
We just can't put the same $30,000 in, spend it all, and then I never accrue anything. So the last quick thing I'll mention is, Brian, what you did about putting that ad on the township website to find caretaker for Carlos Park. And I
Yes.
think Mary Jo is going to put a 1-page flyer at the park itself
Sure.
with that same information because it would be great if the person actually lives right by the park. So we're hoping somebody, walks by and sees that information also.
Agreed.
Okay.
That's been done, and Mary Jo, it's up to you to go ahead and put that down there or whatever. I had more of my hands on stuff than I wanted to be frank with you, but we got them done. And we'll continue to work as a team to get those things done as necessary.
Right.
Just one thing to add to that park, you're talking about a spinner out here.
Yes,
Okay,
second
you
spinner,
look on that sign, it's got a big Rotary emblem on there.
right,
That park or a lot of that equipment was put in by Rotary.
right.
They have a grant process. That would be a perfect grant opportunity through the Rotary Club to get.
Did you hear that, Susan?
I'm writing it down.
Yep.
Do you know the timing on that at all, Jim? Just checking with you in case you know it off the top of your head.
Timing for their
Otherwise, I'll
grant.
look at it.
They
Yeah.
just did a one round of grants just last week.
And
But
they're
usually
Yeah, so-
twice a year. But
Probably
you
spring
put
and
your
fall.
application at any point.
and
Any point, so could it possibly happen before this sells off?
Pardon?
At any point, does that mean we could do it ASAP so we get it before the sales off?
You just never know if you put that, if they'll
hold it.
consider it this summer still or not. But
Okay.
and I'm a Rotarian for
Right,
the
I
last
know,
30
yeah.
some years, 35, man.
Yeah.
That park was
Yeah,
our doings.
Yeah.
I suspect that they would continue to support it.
I'm sure they
Okay.
That
would.
sounds great.
Also, there is another nonprofit that runs in the township called Act Now that has a small process, not much, but to maybe, I'm not sure it's wealthy enough to give you $6,000, but I'm sure it's wealthy enough to give you. Yeah, we can give you another $1,000.
But if
But
you
it's-
did the two applications, we've worked with Act Now before,
Yes,
the
you have.
Rotary Club on other projects.
Yep.
I think your trailer.
Our trailer is a project. Yep.
So,
Yep.
yeah, there's a great avenue.
Don't forget local pieces
Yeah.
there. So, and again,
That
I
sounds
don't,
great.
and I know Susan, I know you because we've talked enough that this creating plan budgeting for capital expense and repair and things that has to be discussed in there. And then when it comes to other grants, when we run into something that is that is a really nice potential grant with a match. We don't want everybody just to pass it by without a discussion that might benefit the township's parks and recs. So, okay.
Yeah, so let me just follow up on that last sentence. Mary
Mhm.
Jo and I are taking a meeting on Friday, and I've already met with that National Fitness Corporation
Yes.
company. They sent some information to you claiming to have grant money for fitness station equipment. It's a very cool product, but it might be a little bit out of our price
Out of
range.
our
So
league, yeah.
Mary Jo and I are going to meet with them again on Friday and
Yeah.
explore it.
Due diligence never hurts.
Yep.
Thank
Okay.
you. Anything else, Susan, for the board?
No, I think I took enough of your time. Any questions for me?
Oh, you're great.
We've had it all out.
I got,
Nope, I'm sorry.
I don't want to digress
Yep.
too far because I think it's a capital issue, but what about the water, condition of the water well at the park? Do we know that we have good water there? We're talking about putting a potable water drinking fountain.
I am meeting with Mr. Gerrish, or I'll be meeting here once the water's turned on, which I hope to get that shortly for everybody over at the park. Or the township park, and then get us on a quarterly. It's a type 2 well. And the records here indicate that it hasn't been tested I mean, it's old, but yet Jim and I went down, it looks like maybe a 5-inch well. So, I mean, it was put in right. Things were put in right. And so I'm thinking that it's probably fine with the 5-inch, but I'm going to do that now. When that comes into play, yes, that's going to be a discussion if there's a problem, just like the septic down there.
Yeah.
As I've articulated to all of you, as we've asked personal questions of each other about the health of Higgins Lake and moving forward, we must as a township, show that we are good stewards as we ask other people to potentially look into their properties to make sure they're good stewards moving forward. In other words, people in glass houses should not be throwing stones. Mm-hmm. And so I'm committed to that this year and getting those things done that hadn't been done. And it's not just by a previous administration, it's many administrations. So that being said, yeah, Jim, I'm concerned about that. And I don't know whether that's going to fall under, it could be way too big. And for certainly the Parks and Recs budget, we may have to address it.
That's why I brought it up.
Yes.
So
Thank you for that.
Move to capital or something.
Yes. Okay, we had a lot of discussion. I want to make sure, did we vote on the issue? Yes, thank you. All right, very good. Thank you, Susan. Appreciate it. It's not meant to be an interrogation. Good spirit.
All's well.
Good discussion. Thank you.
Thanks, Susan.
Thanks, Susan.
It is 10:30. Shall we take just a quick 5-minute break for a bathroom? And then we'll come back and start with the planning commission update. 5 minutes and we are leaving the meeting, Lynn, at 10:32. We're going to reconvene 10:39. We are on to number 6, planning commission update and their needs. Any further work, Jim?
Turn your mic on.
I'm sorry. We're on to number 6, Gerrish Township Planning Commission update needs, Jim. That's our liaison
Oh, okay.
on the short terms.
Well, on the short-term rental ordinance, the plan commission did a draft, which has been turned over to the township board. We haven't acted on it. It's, we did have a meeting yesterday to get some clarification from the attorney, which you wanted to have that done before it came to a full discussion at the board level, which I think we're now at that point that the board needs to address it. We need to put it on our next work session and do your homework, come together and have a real discussion of what's in there, concerns or whatever. When we're done with that, then the process will be to kick it back to the planning commission. If there's any changes that we want to consider, have them make their changes, come back to us. And at some point, we're going to either say we want to go forward with this, or we don't. And at that point, there'll be a hearing where the public could have their input.
Yep.
So that's my understanding where we're at.
Sorry, you're saying at the next work session for that, or?
I think we need to,
June.
would be June would be our next work session. We should have that on the agenda. And as a board, we should now start having a discussion of what our concerns are, what we want to see added, deleted, or
Yeah.
or
My
throw
plan-
the thing out the window, whatever. And then, because the plan commission did their due diligence,
She did.
they're done until we kick it back to them to address whatever
We
we
received
want.
all that already.
Yeah, we did. I'm also going to invite Tom Barber. He
Yes,
offered
that's
to
the other
do a
thing.
brief presentation, PowerPoint, whatever, to bring all the board up to speed on the paper that you received. In case you have any questions, he'll be here to bounce that off. And I do agree with Jim, and I think the June work session would be appropriate to hear that and hear Tom for a brief moment on behalf of the planning commission. So with the board's understanding, I can, is that too early for you, or
No,
is that too early to swallow, or are you good with that?
no, that's
perfect.
It's time.
Moving along, then I'll get it on the work session agenda for June.
Yes.
Chief? Yeah, probably should, because I think it might be proposed initially, or I shouldn't say initially, it's always a two-pronged approach, the police powers, and then similar when you have what I call just constant repetitive problems, it winds up into a civil side of that thing with the use of the attorney, so.
I read one a while back that they put out. Everything was good to me. The only suggestion I had was they had a house numbering portion in there that coincided with our house numbering ordinance.
Yes.
That was the only thing that I see from it, but
Yep.
it might be changing into it, so if I can get an updated copy, I think it'd be.
Yeah, sure. I'll forward you that whole email piece that STR sent us, the short-term rental. Okay, moving along. Number 7. So again, this month, it just continues to, we have some policy updates and changes that need to be made. We've been talking about the ESTA stuff. So in order to accomplish the ESTA new policy, and you guys have had it, and the acknowledgement addendum to the manual, we would need to, on Tuesday, the 12th, we would need to formally rescind our Paid Medical Leave Act, Section 8. Totally. To replace that. I'm just going to go down through them. ESTA policy and place the ESTA acknowledgement and the addendum to the manual. And then 7B would be to a policy change, and now we need to discuss this. I sent it out to you, and it just reared its head in the discussion that we just had.
Yeah.
Which is, if I gave it to you many moons ago, well, I should say probably, I say 6-7 years ago. Anyways, Jim Fisher and I came to the board because that policy was $1,000, and you don't do anything in the police or the fire department with equipment replacement or otherwise, and it's not more than $1,000. So it put a 60-day, I say 30 to 60 days to come to the board and, say, can I spend the money that we already spent 2 public hearings and you approve the budget, and you're not overspending your budget. You're just spending in the budget for the provisions of that budget. And so I am running into it on a regular basis, getting into the daily processes of, we just spent, well, this will be nearly another full month, and we got approval last month to do the water softener at $3,400 to address our high iron content here. During that, we discovered that where a lot of contamination was coming from, which was the fire department's external underground tank that they used to put fires out with, literally is exposed inside our system. So in other words, every time they dump 10,000 gallons into a truck, they're unleashing whatever was in the 10,000 gallons there nonstop right into our softener that even is there now, the ionizer. And so it was discovered that, well, what happened? Well, there was some piping put in, copper tubing for washing trucks, cold and hot waters and whatever. And it was causing also some backfill into that piece, which would need to be changed because there's no sense in letting it bleed from the big tank. And of course, then not addressing that. So now you're at about probably another $1,500 to $2,000 to make that thing move. And under our current system, I got to come back and I got to talk to you about whether or not we should get healthy water for our employees and our public that visits our place. So that's when I looked into that, I'm like, yeah, we got to look at see what we got. So currently your policy says, and my proposal is, and you can adjust it. You can say we do a different number. I'll put it in there. But currently, Gerrish Township General Office is $1,000 before we have to come back and play Mother May I at the board to get this done. So I am proposing we just make it the same 5,000 that the fire and the EMS and the police chief have in their budgets that were already approved and approved again. Obviously, I agree with Jim Anderson's statement, which is, look, when we can, we should. You know what I mean? If there's a timely piece to these things, then maybe there's some validity that if it's under those amounts, that you can go ahead as a board member that is a liaison or in shall we say, somewhat in charge of those things for the daily operation to be able to get those done so that we can move on and do other important township business as well, other than attending to that process. So there's my discussion for purchase limits. What's the thoughts?
There's a difference between, emergency type things like water and normal budgetary things. And if I was going to err, I'd always want to err the side of caution. And I don't want to pick on the parks, but since we just
Went through it, right?
it's hurt. So here, if they had a line on a budget that we approved and it said that there was going to be, let's say, $5,000 spent for a spinner, or budgeted for it, I can understand, Mary Jo is sitting as a liaison to authorize them to go out and procure that. But even in that circumstance, if I knew that it was going to happen this summer, I'd still bring it to the board for approval before I did it.
Yes.
So if we did something like put the $5,000 limit on there, I don't want us to slip into this thing where, hey, I can go buy a new computer without going and asking the board because it's under the $5,000 and my office supplies expense is generalized enough that, I can just call it office supplies. I don't want to fall into that trap.
Correct.
So that's the part that concerns me about the $5,000.
So let me read it. Currently, your section 2H in your manual, Gerrish Township purchase limit says, Gerrish Township declares that for emergency repairs and replacement exceeding spending limits, department heads shall contact their board liaison for approval. Now, Gerrish Township declares for new items the following purchase limits. This is where it says general office shall need approval from the Gerrish Township board if greater than $1,000. You can go on down and read it yourself. And I was also present at the meeting where the marina was given up to $2,000 to take care of that. And for some reason, the board at the time neglected itself, if you will. And I can only assume what that means is that Gerrish's general office, and since we work in it, that applies to us. So can you think of some verbiage you want to change so that we can accomplish something? Because this is just too cumbersome at this point. For my taste.
What if it was 2,000? How would that fix? What if it was 2,000 instead of 1,000? Would that fix the cumbersome issue in?
Sure. Not in the water case, it wouldn't.
Well, in the water.
I don't know what.
But that's an extraordinary item.
Oh, yeah, that's
me.
one-off.
That's not normal. That's extraordinary. I mean, that's not something that happens every day.
It's necessity, is what I say.
Yeah.
I mean, clean water should have been a priority in the past.
Unless you want to categorize the expenses into, extraordinary is $5,000 and ordinary is $2,000 or something. But I get what you're saying.
I hear you.
But I also don't like.
I hear you.
Yeah,
You don't want to
open Pandora's box.
I hear you. No.
Right.
I'm not asking for a free hand.
No.
So
I'm not asking for an obstruction either.
So I'm wondering, like, can't even remember, well, it was last summer, I used the credit card that I have for the township. And I could see the three offices, the treasurer, the supervisor, that maybe being raised to 5,000, but I think for trustees, and
You're
Not your
confusing.
credit card. We're not
Am I?
This
talking
is
credit
not the credit
cards.
card. This is about a.
well, I mean, but that's how often
Separate.
I would
Yeah, this is.
on my
separate
own
thing.
do something for the Parks and Rec. You know what I mean? I'm just using that as an example.
I'm willing to put whatever you want in there.
Okay.
If people want 2,000, that's fine. I just telling you right now, $1,000
Right.
is an obstruction.
But do we want to separate the trustees? I don't, that's my question
Yeah.
for future.
Report.
Oh, okay, all right.
Nope, you're a board
Okay,
member, not at all.
Well, what I would,
I'm no more important than you are, so,
what I would
you know.
propose is change it to 3 and have the marina moved up to 3 to match it, is what I would. I have, with the fire and the PD, they have such great detail on what they budget and their needs are different than ours, just like you said, with equipment. And just them buying something for the ambulance supplies, those sort of things are gonna,
5,000 is way more
but I
limit for.
I don't see us hitting that threshold there,
Yeah.
and that's making
You're right.
the office one 3 times what it currently is and just increasing the marina
I'm fine with it.
match.
That sounds good to me too.
Sounds good, yeah.
I'm fine with that. Are you fine enough with that? Because I intend we'd like to move these Tuesday, the 12th.
Yep.
Yeah.
Are you, I'm not gonna print a new one out. This will be your copy, so please make that reflection, because we'll be looking for that. Good, perfect, sounds great.
But I will hold your hand to the
Definition
fire if you.
Absolutely. We expect no less, sir.
I'm happy to have people.
Hold our hands
Watch,
to the
well,
fire.
just care enough to watch over.
That's
so.
right.
Yes. All right, the next one there was the policy change, which is this is kind of a leftover from the last couple of years, and we're finding in the state is kind of a leftover from a lot of people's years in the marina. The marina is a different type of service. It is under the township, and there's a conflicting piece there in which there's a section in our manual that prohibits people taking gifts and things like that. The marina service is a tipping industry as well. Treasurer Anderson did quite a bit of work behind the scenes, contacting other places. And we met with Russ and we met with Lori, and we need to close this thing up because right now there's has been for some time quite a I'll call it gaping hole of cash tipping and what's reported IRS and I personally was not comfortable with that. So I drafted I shouldn't say I drafted, you initially drafted. I changed a few words, but nothing of just usual policy words, but Jim did. So that literally cash tips, they can accept stuff, but there's going to be a way it has to be accounted for so that the IRS is appropriately addressed and tighten that whole ship up out there with regards to that. And management won't be receiving tips, and the tips will be split between the non-management staff who work the shifts, particular, whatever. Was there anything in Jim's draft that I put out to everybody that caused you any sour for the board?
No, but I do have a question about it.
What's that?
Said no, but I do have a question about it, of course. With President Trump saying waitresses and wait staff will not be
Taxed on their tip.
taxed on their tips. Does that go along with this?
It's not law.
Well, that's not.
There's a
law.
discussion or there's a
Okay,
statement.
right,
He, that's not, I know he's doing a lot of presidential
Right.
orders, but that
yeah,
is not in his purview to
okay,
change the tax
All right.
law. So, if that
We'll
happens,
change.
we would,
Rip,
we
okay,
would
gotcha.
adjust this, because
okay, just one.
there's
Clarify.
several levels of issues within this. One is it's contrary to the general township policy to
Yeah.
take tips. But that is an industry that's totally different. I'm a boater down in Florida. It's you just automatically pull a $5-10 out when you're docking your boat and some young person helps you, or it's just normal.
Yeah.
And it's gonna happen whether we acknowledge it or not.
Right.
So
Yes, it
it's
is.
better to be proactive on this. And I think that, what talking to other marinas, and I contacted 8, I believe, within the west side of the state, larger ones, and they have varying ways of approaching this. Some is like don't ask, don't tell. Some is they put it in a jar. There's, I think, 1 or 2 that put it on, made them report it. The IRS, we have an issue with inconsistency within our policy of what's fair to the employees and the voters, and then what's the IRS says. And the IRS says you report income that you receive. A
Mhm.
waitress has to
Right.
or supposed to report her tips.
Honestly, yeah.
And so what this does is says, okay, in the regards to the marina and the marina only,
Only.
tipping will be allowed within the township. The way you're going to approach it is that everybody will report it through the cash register or through the credit card machine. Those tips will be recorded, and they will be evenly split between the non-management people that work that ship. Puts a little burden on you, but it's the fairest thing for them, because what I found out with the other marinas is just some of them are bigger marinas that had big boats coming in. Well, these young lads would be fighting each other to go pull in that 50-foot
That's
boat,
right.
because they know that guy's going to be a $50 tip
Or better.
And so, to be fair, because the other guy's out here emptying the trash and he's not out there,
Yep.
It's even. It doesn't matter if you're out on the dock or you're pushing boats in or you're working the counter. Everybody's going to equally get their share of whatever the tip revenue was that.
And we're not surreptitiously doing this. We've talked with Russ.
Yeah, I think there was a lot of thought in this.
They also had some, they share some of the concerns as well.
Yeah.
But on this, and by the way, it's a new thing, and anything new is probably going to create some ripples, but is what it is.
And if let's say that the law changed and tipping was not
Change it.
required to be reported,
Mhm.
we just follow the exact same thing we're doing right here. We just wouldn't put it on their W-2.
Mhm.
You'd still
Oh.
split the tips. You'd
Okay.
still put it in, report it. We just wouldn't report it to the IRS because it wouldn't be necessary, but
Right.
it would still be fairly split between the people
I got
that
you.
work there. Because it's not fair the person that's out raking leaves not to
Right,
get
yeah.
part of, just because they had a different job than the other person that was out on the dock.
Unless they're ornery and they need to be away from the public, but
Possibly, yeah. But that was the
question
thought
there.
process and that's incorporating the other marinas that I talked to and how they did it, and then the wisdom of this board. So
Mm,
Okay, anything else on your mind on that one? That would go under section 4, conflicts of interest, 3A, which is directly below the gift piece from the general township, as the exception tipping at the Gerrish Township rate. I will make proper corrections and whatever before we put them in the manual and go over everything with a fine tooth comb. The next one is policies change to annual leave, because of the Paid Medical Leave Act change because of ESTA and the replacement of that in our section 4 annual leave, in a different section or a different title. We have to get rid of the language that's highlighted in yellow so it doesn't conflict with the new proposed language for ESTA. Question?
Nope.
Okay. Then the last one is a policy change for employee practices in PMLA. I have printed off exactly what was there, and recently we had the opportunity, obviously, to have it reviewed by our labor attorney, and the last time this thing was adjusted was back when the police department was a union. And so his suggestions are incorporated in red to incorporate them in there so that indeed we are all good to go, basically. Wasn't super deficient, just needed a couple reflections on other cases that, came along throughout there. So questions? Doesn't make sense not to do it. So, all right, very good. That's true there. Does anybody have any?
Those are all individual motions next week.
Do you want them individual or do you want to group them all together? I have no problem grouping them together if you don't, if you all are comfortable.
That's fine with me.
Yeah. Yeah, it's unfortunate because, normally your department heads have the opportunity just to go ahead and do their policy changes for operational things. Unfortunately, the board we make up one person. So it's kind of a round robin. So, okay, very good. Moving on. I just wanted to give you an update. I did do what the board asked with regards to Jeffrey K's request on the dead end specialty sign last month, and I've received nothing back. I did give you, I believe, copies of all of that. So we haven't heard anything back. The finding for the board was this: if they want to buy the dead end sign or whatever, we're not going to pay for that specialty sign or other of those for the future. Many boards have done those things, but we're creating a new, a new sheriff in town routine, I guess. I don't know. All right. Health of Higgins Lake update, Jim. Lots. It will. So probably a very important 5 minutes or more.
As of, back in December, we started this committee. January, February, we announced that we were going to go out for open up for an announcement of positions to fill a batch of committees. I want to try to get through this relatively quick, but through committees to support the health of Higgins Lake. I put those committees together at the time, and it was about a dozen committees. It got to be a little bit unwieldy, so I went back and have since gone back and kind of consolidated. All the work is still there, but kind of consolidated the committees into, one lead can take care of. We went out for applications from people and got back, I think, a great response. There's 40 people listed on here that have said they'd like to be involved in one way or another. They are from all the interest groups around the lake, the major interest groups, and a lot of people that have no affiliation with some of those groups. So it's balanced out pretty well. We have locals, we have folks that are not local, that are from out of town, that have cottages here, that still want to be involved. There's people, the majority, of course, are from Gerrish Township, but there's like 6 people from Lyon and another 6 or 8 people from elsewhere. So lakefronters and non-lakefronters about equal, it looks like to me. And I also was curious and I sort of took a crack at what I thought the individuals were maybe, because this kind of goes back to sewer versus non-sewer and whatever. So, and it looks like there's a good cross section of people that are representing both or all 3 of those interests or both of those interests. So I think the group of people that we've got back, we have CEOs and PhDs and doctors and lawyers and working people. We have everybody that's involved and wants to be a part of this. If you go over to the colored piece to the right there, it starts off with, it's a little bit hard to follow, but it makes sense once you see it, I think, is I sorted it out by, in the top part, those top 5 people there are the 5 people that I'd like us to consider for the steering committee. I've talked with all of them, and they come from various backgrounds. They're very neutral, and they've had a career of being able to work with people and make stuff happen. So the next column, the green section there then would be the science committee and what's called the new lake testing. New Lake testing was its own once upon a time, but it seems like it's tied pretty close together with the science committee as they go through, and they kind of will make some recommendations as to what's going to happen. And if one of those recommendations is indeed New Lake testing, it would seem like the science committee be the one to take it. So I just combined those two together for now. And then the next group, sort of the salmon color there, is the communications group, the communications and database and lake data. Communications is going to be very key to us being successful in this project going forward over the next couple of years. We want to make sure that the message that we get out to the residents and the community is consistent, it's professional, it's informative, and it's got
Accurate.
it's accurate would be handy. Yep. We want to make sure that it represents where we're headed. And so that's a key piece. And we have some very, very talented people on that piece that have done this before, that have done some grant work and that will be able to hit the ground running to do websites and that sort of stuff, depending on, what we end up with. The next piece was finance and IT. Still smaller group, but they'll have to prepare our direction and give direction as to what our finance approach should look like. Do we have to set up, I'm making it up, a 501c3? Is that important or not important or whatever? Work with the treasurer as well to make sure whatever they come up with fits with the municipality and it fits into our organization. We spoke about road ends, and that one is a very narrow group. We know exactly what that is. There's an individual that's interested in taking that ball and running with it. So we'll know what that is, and we'll see some action on that, early on. And then the septic and well group, and I've set that aside. There's some people that have some specific interest in that, but it's also leans very much toward a septic ordinance. So I left myself on that one as the chair to move that forward, just to keep the interface with the septic ordinance going forward. And then that may change. We may off it to somebody else, but at least for now, that's what it is. My questions at this?
This was very well thought out.
Very well.
Very well.
Okay.
Yeah, you laid it right out. That this is really, really good.
Good.
I think the thing to remember too, and as we've had some private discussions about, or not private, but discussions, Jim, I know you and I, is that, look, these are, I'm hoping that there won't be arguments within subcommittees that can't be overcome. And this is our chance to, shall I say, reset the discussion and to try and bring this community back to the table for the health of Higgins Lake and identify on-site stuff and that kind of thing. So Jim has spent an enormous amount of time on this, time and energy. Thank you, Jim, so much for this.
It's what I
We also
signed up
talked,
for.
Jim, about presenting the board on May 13th, our regular meeting this month, with the package and have us vote for the package, because there is a great amount of people, which I'm very excited about, that are all assigned to these different committees. And on also that count, we did check yesterday. Treasurer Anderson and I visited the township attorney on several issues, but I specifically I would have concerns about open meetings acts with the recent Supreme Court ruling about what is an open meeting and what isn't an open meeting when it comes to committees. And there is something directly there. But I think, Jim, correct me if I'm wrong, but came out of there with the understanding the steering committee is the one that needs to be out here in the public because they are going to make a potential recommendation, even though they're not making a decision to spend something. That would be the one that may and be subject to it. So to keep it clean, I guess steering committee would be, the subcommittees are not considered that. Our attorney felt fairly confident with that. And so that would be, you know, meetings posted, meaning the steering committee meeting. And was that what you took away?
Yeah,
And we can't get into just rubber stamping.
I think that
For the board, we're
that
not delegating our authority.
that court case really came from the fact that there was committees in a municipality which may have had one or two board members on it
Mhm.
that did all their due diligence in the committee. And then when he brought it to the board, he got rubber stamped with no discussion for the public. That's why that's one of those extreme cases that caused this court case.
Yes.
We're not planning on doing this. We're gonna be transparent this whole, I know you love that word.
I
We're
love
gonna,
that word. Yes.
the whole process. But I think to err in the side of caution, I think the thing to do from this board standpoint is put the steering committee, even though it's not required, because they're not making any decisions. But we'll leave that subject to the Open Meetings Act. The subcommittees that report back to the steering committee, not so much. Although I would say they're probably gonna be sitting in the meeting doing their reporting anyways, but it allows the public to be part of the process, to watch what's going on and monitor it. And I think that's the right thing to do.
It's helping. Yeah.
It's not required. I don't, you know, Scott,
Right.
our attorney, he's
Yes.
recommending that we do the open meetings with that committee. But when you read that court case, it's an extreme case where there was a lot of rubber stamping going on without any discussion at the board level, which it costs us trust with your constituents. We're not going to do that.
And as they say, bad facts make bad case law.
Yeah.
And so that was out of the medical the marijuana industry and licensures, I think.
Yeah.
That one. But so anyways,
Well, I think that if the committees themselves, I'm glad that's the way that's the opinion. And these committees then can go, I can just picture the science committee with 14 people on it. Being bogged down, not so much in being able to keep anything from the public. That's not the point, because whatever they come up with is going to be back to the steering committee and then back here, and it'll have lots of opportunities to see the light of day.
for the public.
But they can get together and 3 or 4 of them can talk about a particular issue without having to be concerned about the Open Meetings Act, and they can meet as a group, however they're going to meet, and without having to come in.
Well, they're also going to be working. It's not when they get together, it's a public meeting process. It's working to sift through information, go gather information. And you can't do that. It's not necessarily going to be sitting in a room like this. It's going to be in the field possibly or whatever. So that just makes a lot of sense. And I think the only thing that I would say that we as a board might want to consider is right now we have a budget line item in the general fund for Health of Higgins Lake. That's what I think it was $20,000 is what we said. If we're as we're progressing here, and the possibility of having outside money coming in through donations or grants or whatever, we probably should sometime very soon make a decision to create a fund within the township, a special revenue fund called Health of Higgins Lake, transfer the 20 into that. So it's now in that fund by itself.
Yeah.
And then its own cost center and revenue center, because we don't really want to muddy up the general fund.
No.
If some other grant money or whatever donation comes in, I think that'd be good housekeeping.
It also fits into what'll be our long-term financial plan, reserving money
And just a quick thing on the 501c3 thing, it's not really necessary to create one to take donations at the township. The township automatically through the IRS code is a subdivision of the state of Michigan, which is a subdivision of the federal government, which makes us eligible to take money as a donation and it's tax deductible. The only thing we have to consider is if somebody gives us any money with a contingency of how it's to be spent, we have to make sure we acknowledge and agree on how that is. So if I specified that this is only going to be used for
Lake testing.
something that is contrary to what we're doing, then we cannot accept it. Other than that, we're good to go.
I think that's a good long term. Also, I think one other comment for sure on that, Jim, is I know in discussions that I know you and I have had, in order to kick the thing off correctly with all these subcommittees, as people look and say, okay, I'm on the science committee, I applied for that. You provided for an initial, shall I say, chairperson to kick it off. There and obviously these subcommittees, by all means, if they need to change that, that person or otherwise, I guess they can do it themselves. We just needed, when we put this out there for the public, and we need somebody to get it organized and then decide how who's comfortable with that person, at least just kind of moderating, basically.
Yeah, maybe along that line, the other piece that I sent out to you is what I was I guess I was probably looking for approval on in 2 weeks. Or have people if you'd weigh in on, this is what I want to send out to all the members.
Absolutely.
And I'm curious about the timing of it. I'm guessing it probably waits till after our next board meeting, I think. But this would be a cover letter that explains to them, how we're getting started. And then a little bit of detail from each of the committees, from the steering committee to the science to the communications, and give them a little bit of direction as to what we're thinking. And so they can grab their group together and get going with a little bit of direction. And then I'm sure there'll be lots of questions about where do we want to go philosophically, and what's going to happen from there. And we'll have to have some meetings to clarify that sort of stuff. But
yeah, I would also suggest, at least for the appropriate committee, you sent yesterday, you managed to get your hands from the Central Michigan Health Department, the actual Lion pieces.
Yeah.
And I think the appropriate committee needs to have that document. And I think probably in the kickoff package, it tells you what happened over there, truly from the health department's perspective, what we're failing, what wasn't failing, those kinds of things. So I think it really is a telling document.
This is the kind of thing I put this in here in this.
Yeah.
So that, this is the kind of information that needs to be a part of the overall big picture, that.
Yes.
This information was out 2 months ago, but it didn't look like this. And it didn't say the same thing as what this says either, I don't think. So.
Yeah, I'm not sure about all that, but this come obviously from our.
Lion said, yeah, we had, we only had 6 properties that were a problem. And this tells the right story. This tells
I think it was, it may have been stated here at one of our meetings where there was only 6 or something. I can't recall, but, and I'm not looking to do any going.
No, that's not at all. It's just that this is part of the things that we want to have this. I picture this communications committee that.
And I would love to see this be part of what we send out too, so that those two would.
Yeah.
You know what I mean for this?
And that came from the health department.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's pretty eye-opening.
Yeah, it's eye-opening, very eye-opening.
This is kind of stuff that they've been, criticized a little bit for how come it takes so long to get this information back? Well, it takes a while to put this together. And,
Yeah. The amount of time you spent just on this Health of Higgins Lake initiative with what you're presenting here is evidence of just how long that takes.
It does. It takes a long time to, to go through, and you kind of take one crack at it and doesn't come out right. So there's a lot of editing goes back and forth, and I fully imagine that's exactly what these committees are going to go through too. These, from what I can know so far of these chair people, they're gonna have good quality product coming out of this, and I'm looking forward to
very good
to what that's going to be.
So read it. I've read it over it. You gave it obviously yesterday, and I've spent some time with it also last night. But it's a nice package, Jim, just exactly what what you've been talking about and we've been discussing now for months, in a nice summated format. And I think it's easy to read. I think when our folks get that, all these folks there, I've had calls, of course, everybody's anxiously, and that's cool, anxiously wanting to get to this. And I think that's awesome.
A little inclined to put a watermark, a draft watermark on this and make it available if people want it, if the people on the committees want it between now and
I
2
just,
weeks.
whenever you all,
Or at least
I don't see
maybe
a
your
problem.
steering committee to at least have some feedback to see if it's.
Yeah,
however, I'm open. This is not these aren't secretive documents by any far stretch.
Right.
And it's not meant
they're
to be,
public,
nor
they're
will it
public
ever
now
be.
as of a few minutes ago. So
Yes. And so you say the word, you want it out onto the internet or whatever, I'm happy to do that. You want it on,
I'll probably reach out individually to the folks on the committee,
Right.
send it out to them with this information. Here's where you landed.
Yep.
You'll hear more after the 13th and then,
Yeah.
go from there.
because I want to formally take care of that on the 13th and get it kicked off and moving. And I do agree with Jim. I think that we're probably not probably gonna need to, as part of the long-term plan here, to get that fund set up and that kind of thing. So, all right. Anybody else have any comments on the Health of Higgins Lake update as Jim has presented at this point regarding the appointments?
Good job.
Fantastic
Thanks.
job.
Thanks.
Fantastic job. Okay, we're now on to number 10, and Jim has been applying his expertise. He's got some great programs himself that he owns. We're so lucky in the project management area. We've been talking about our cemetery direction, and Jim is the liaison for the cemetery. To frame this as we discuss this, the township cemetery is now all of the money, shall I say, when it came to the burials and previous and owners and occupiers and whatever of grave sites or trees that might make them non-burials, we've come to a pretty much an attrited end to any financial abilities coming in. And so the previous trustee, Terry Newton, I know, was working on getting sections, the south section open so that we can open that up. And then another section that I even wasn't aware of up off of West Burdell on the second entrance. And so at that point, obviously Jim then came in, and I'll let Jim take it now.
Yeah, this map, the drawing, first of all, it's the salmon, the lots that have got kind of the salmon colored on them. All those salmon lots are sold or occupied. They're virtually all sold, and those are all occupied. The yellow, there's two sections, there's a couple of different conditions of yellow. The yellow that is kind of mixed in with the salmon, those are the only lots that are still available for sale. So as you can see, the cemetery is pretty well filled up. There's only, I didn't run the count, but there's only, I think, 40 lots that are left within the cemetery to be sold. So like Brian said, we went out a year ago and expanded the cemetery to include the lots to the, up on Burdell, those 40 lots, plus the lots that are off to the south on County Road 100 or North Cut Road there. And so those lots are now available, potentially. And we'll get to that, but those lots are platted and available, and they can be sold, and we can be extended to it. Well, as we got to thinking about talking with Jim and Brian about this a little bit, what's the long-term plan for the cemetery look like, and where do we go? And I got to updating this map for the office here, and I drew it in where the property boundary is. And, there's a lot of real estate left there that this could be expanded to for down the road. Kind of keep in mind this salmon piece, the lots that are in this salmon piece have been the activity over the last 40 years, no more than that, 60 years. the cemetery's been there for, I'll say 50 years. And it's taken 50 years to sell those. So what are we gonna do in the next 50 years? I would propose that all the lots that are shown above it here will cover you for the next 50 years. And that's probably what we should look at for the revenue approach that we're going to need to do to cover the ongoing maintenance. And of course, the costs that the township incurs every time there's a burial, there's costs there. But where do we expand? What does it look like? What's the overall project looks like? And part of the reasoning for doing that, in my mind, was to renumber the whole project, the whole cemetery, so that we have a consistent numbering system that can be expanded to include whatever we do in the future. So,
What's the count of these white ones that are,
I can't tell you right offhand. I can tell you pretty quick, but
well, each one of these blocks is 96.
The plot is 6x12 on regular grade.
Yeah, but I mean, when
30,
you take these like
32
lot
there's
32 is
roughly
96.
100.
Yeah, 90, I think it's 96.
96.
So you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yeah.
1,300 lots, 1,400 lots, something. And I think there's
I'll give you a very simplistic way of looking at this is that, if you had, let's just say there's 1,000. If you put, if you took, well, I don't, if you took $100 off of each sale and put it into a savings account, you utilizing that, you'd have $100,000, right?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well,
I don't know.
Of course, we'll realize that for many years.
Because originally when you had lesser amount, I was thinking you'd want to put about $300. You sell each lot for $500 or $400 or something like that. If you took $300 out of each sale and stuck it into a forced savings account or trust, it's going to take years. We won't be around. But you're built right now, you got about $90,000 that's accumulated in your savings account for the cemetery to generate, $20,000 of revenue to mow the place and take care of it. You need roughly 500 grand in the bank at 4% in keeping the principal. And that's kind of what it would take to get the 20,000 a year to maintain it. So you're only, 20% there. And, so,
I think you're gonna have to be more unfortunate per your red line in your long-term plan.
yeah.
The thing is, we own the real estate, so we don't have any sunk costs there. We've got to cover our maintenance. We got to cover, not maintenance, we got to cover personnel there for the burial.
What it would,
10 grand a year.
what it would require is that if you took you got the, what do you call it, the niches? You got the niches and you got the sale of the lots. If you take and said, okay, we're gonna set aside the sale money and we're gonna put that aside. The other revenues that we take in through the cemetery operations, we'll use that for current year cost and we'll have to subsidize it with operations cost out of the general fund to make it whole on an annual basis. And then you're taking the sale of the lots and setting that aside and building this money up. And each year that's going to grow. And well, if you had 1,000 lots and you put $400 a lot away, like I say, that's a long ways out.
Well,
At least you've had, coincidentally, I had a conversation the other day with Ted Carlson because he was in here and I audited this place. Yeah, I know. Yeah. But, 20 years ago when I was doing your audit, that conversation, he had the foresight to say, hey, we got to start setting money
He's the
aside.
last guy.
I think
that did.
at that time, Herb Weatherly, I think, was on the board, and I think those two had worked out something to start setting some money aside. That's the only reason you got the 90 grand that's in here now.
Right.
And I think that no matter what we do, because you're to expand that, there's going to be upfront costs. We've got to consider, this is a finite amount of money that you're going to get on the sales. Once you have them, that's it. That money is, no matter what the other costs are to
Operate it.
to create the place, to develop it, we have to have that other money set aside. And build up a savings account that'll help sustain this. You may not ever get to the point of having the 500 grand, but maybe you'll get at least a good portion of it, because some future board is gonna be stuck with this filled up cemetery that nobody, and that's why you see the cemeteries that go to the wayside, because they don't have the money to take care of it. And it's gonna be up to the family or whatever to.
I think for right now, for this very minute, is this the master plan for the cemetery that you want, that we should look at? Or do we want to look at something different, make those suggestions?
My having some cemetery experience. I think that, Jim has provided in here for cremain burial site. Currently, right now, your graves are 6 foot by 12 foot, and you've been allowing obviously cremain burials in those huge lots, and it's a waste of real estate. So Jim has included in here some 3x3 specifically for that in here. It does create a little bit of unusualness, but he's got a natural area in here that I want everybody to look at. And I think my only suggestion would be is to look in the upper right coordinate, if you will, somewhere, or off down further, which would be almost like 24, that you almost make that a nature area again with just the cremain burials across the front of it. That's my only suggestion. Well, I shouldn't say only. I still think that people should be able to bury 2 cremains in one full lot if they chose to do that, because if you don't do that, then people can't put up those 3-foot stand-up monuments they want or whatever. Because when you do 3x3s for cremains, you have basically a 24-inch marker that can go there. And I think you're going to have to alter your 6-inch borders in the cremain section, maybe 4-inch, so that they stay inside the 3-foot grave for the headstone, if you will, there. That would be my only couple suggestions. Other than that, I just think that I love that nature area look right there. And I think it's logical to take another nature area and go down further south, which is towards the wooded border to cross-country ski headquarters or whatever. I don't know how far down it goes, but our property, but nonetheless, that's my only suggestions, but I like this. Jim and I are still had been lacking data on the long-term piece and throwing out, what do you do? Mary Ann, I asked her to do a reach out to all the area cemeteries to make sure that our cemetery is, and you guys got those in from me earlier in the month, of all the townships, city of Grayling, South Branch, Beaver Creek around. And we need to really look at what we're selling our graves for to make sure that we're where we need to be, even before we talk about apportioning money off. Let's put it this way, with what we had initially, there wasn't nothing. We'd have to take 75-80% of every burial now to take care of the situation that's here.
Well, what's happened?
We're out of room now.
Well, what's happening though, since the last couple administrations, you fell back into using the sale of the lots for operational costs, and they're not building up that money anymore.
Correct.
And so that's the part that needs to be addressed. Otherwise, we'll be fine.
Yeah, you don't have to worry.
But
somewhere
down the road,
don't
somebody's going to
forget-
kick that can and it's going to land in somebody's land.
And as we've talked, I think it's obvious that this board needs to be that change agent that leaves proper process and proper whatever for future boards to be able to have something more updated to look at than what we found when we got here. And so I'm all about it. I think this is great. Jim handed you another piece of paper. Uh, which was the sexton responsibilities. I've got to go into the policy manual and see, do you have, or do we have a sexton job description even?
You know, the 30,000 foot view of this piece of
Yeah.
paper says that there's two areas that deal with the cemetery. One of them, when people walk in the door,
Okay. Yep.
and what happens here when they're experienced, they come in and they go to the front desk and they want to buy a lot. There's that, but then there's that goes on over at the cemetery itself, the burials, the walking through the cemetery with the potential user and identifying where plots are and that sort of thing. One of them is the office administrator deals with it here, and the other one's a sexton, and they don't overlap. If somebody wants to take a look at a particular lot, the office administrator would make arrangements for that person to talk with the sexton and meet down there during regular business hours. One other thing that's in here that's different than what we do now and is to be discussed would be, right now, we require that the sexton or the sexton be involved in actual burials. They're there when the funeral's taking place. There was a little question about, does that really necessary? And what I propose here is that a funeral could be conducted by a funeral director that has gone through the necessary testing and training with the sexton and knows the drill and can be trusted to do the funeral without our people there. That would allow them to do weekend burials, after hours burials. Right now, our sexton only works a half a day, works till noon. And if there's a burial at 1 o'clock, he has to hang around until that funeral is over with, and then adjust his time elsewhere in the week to make that happen. I think.
And weekends are a problem right now.
I'm sorry?
And weekends are a problem.
Weekends are a
I've been
problem,
here
yeah.
for a year.
And it seems like people, like, apparently there's more and more interest in having weekend burials. And so if I'll just pick on Kevin at the funeral home in town. If Kevin knows the drill, he's been to all of them, he's been doing it for years. He knows exactly what's got to be done. He knows the paperwork. He knows where they are. Everything's, he can notify us with an email and or a phone call to the sexton and say, I have a funeral on Saturday, and that could be authorized for him to go ahead with that funeral without having our personnel there.
We use a subcontractor to backfill when it's a full burial. And I guess, so what you're saying then is then the sexton would have a cremains hole dug. And the funeral director would do his thing. And then once he's done, there has to be a notification to be able to close that hole back up.
Oh, yeah.
Somebody, because we don't hire the contractor to do that currently. Sorry? We don't hire a contractor to fill a small square hole from a cremains. So that's a consideration there.
Well, that'd have to be detailed in whatever this
Yes.
whatever this testing is and whatever this certification.
Yeah, who's filling it in?
But if it's a full burial, then
Then
our
you have-
contractor's there and
Yes.
they'll take care of it, and they have.
Absolutely.
Anyway, that's something that's a little different in here that we don't do now. That's something for you to consider. And it's also, I think there's been some confusion about who does what between the front desk and Tony. And this intended to try to draw that line between the two of them. So
Correct.
read it over to that, and with that in mind. And
So would you like us to agenda that at the work session to move forward if everybody's comfortable after a month's worth of taking a look at it? And any further questions? What's your timeline?
I think I'd ask what the timeline, what the temperature is in the office here. Is it going to wait another month, or? I mean, I'm okay with another month as long as.
Oh, it's been waiting for a lot longer than before I got here, but.
I told the office staff here the other day, this is what we're going to do.
Yes.
And
right.
what I'm going to propose to the board.
Yes.
And maybe we should try to just see if they can implement it and how that goes and.
Okay.
Well, this isn't a policy that's in our official policies.
It is not.
So do we,
I'm
do we
gonna,
need to vote on it if you have if you're the liaison to be able to
Set the rules.
set it?
I am going to look into post-meeting, the policy manual to see if there is any job description for Sexton specifically. There is an office specialist, which is Mary Ann's job that has I know has a worker, has a dang it, job description. And so I can take a look on that end for you to see what's there. But again, I don't want to get bogged down in super big processes. If we can operationally make some things
I am
move,
comfortable with the two of you doing this without having to come all the way back through.
Okay.
I'm good with that. But I do want to say inside that, the only real decision is I do believe, and maybe not, maybe it's just an informal thing. Look, it's been surveyed. Things are in there. I think we ought to start selling lots, and you and I will get to work. You will meet again because we have some other things we can fill in now on long-term planning financially, and then we get moving on
The
this.
part I don't, is having this tells me how now the revenue potential,
Absolutely. Yeah.
depending on what
That's
we're
what we're
selling for,
lacking,
but
right.
what I don't know is what is it gonna cost to develop it and how we gonna do it in a section here, a section. You know, that's the part I don't know.
You could probably get a rough idea, taking whatever we paid Kavanaugh to do that first, those yellow pieces. Those pieces.
Yep.
That survey and then, sort of.
I'm guessing this is the ridge line where that hill goes up.
That's the woods line.
Oh, this is the woods?
Yeah. The woods.
So there's trimming to be removed.
There'll be trees.
No, these are all, yeah, they're all those trees with that all.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
there's,
that's a big one.
Yeah, to expand, but you got enough to immediately open this thing and start getting a revenue petcock open, basically.
I think we had 15 funerals last year. There's enough there for at least 10 years.
Yeah, it's fun
Right now.
To delay the
Yellow.
decision to open that doesn't seem to be good business. Secondly, to me at least, and the only thing that I do think that obviously the board does have the governance of it, and you guys got this, is we do have to have a discussion whether or not we are in line, lot purchase residents, lot purchase non-residents, this thing I gave to everybody that Mary Ann came up with on here. And so I want to make sure that we're at least reasonable and customary and not too low or those things. So that'd be the only thing I think is a real board issue to come back and visit, like maybe next month and see what we charge now with this. She has it listed in here and see if we're comfortable with that. Gerrish is in here now and all of this. And, Jim, we can take a peek at it and make a suggestion next month at a work session if we're going to increase, stay the same, whatever we're going to do.
Yep.
Is that okay? All right.
Yeah, I'll just go march forward a little bit and formalize this, what I've just talked about here a little bit, and then let you know.
Perfect.
Go from there.
You guys, this side of the table's mighty quiet. Are you good? You on board? Or you got questions?
Yeah, I think we definitely need to look at.
Okay.
You want that as part
Yep.
of the conversation?
I asked Marianne, as part of that to contact around, and she was made aware and of a association that could be joined. The attached documents are there. And the information came from Roscommon Townships. And so Jim, you're the liaison to it or whatever there. And so there was a request to become a member at $45 for membership dues. And then attached to that came a request from Mary Ann that wished to, there's a conference that's going on August 20th and 22nd. And I don't know whether that's something that you might want to go to instead of Mary Ann, or what's your pleasure? So I will bow to whatever it is you you wish on that piece. I think joining the association is a good idea because again, you're able to exchange ideas, concepts, and don't make the same failures of others. And now whether who we send or if we send anybody, I think that's the question on that piece of document. So,
I'd want to know what exactly they're doing for 3 days. at the
Yeah, me
Great
too.
Wolf Lodge.
me too.
Yeah.
Sounds like a good time to me, but I don't think I'm.
Because that doesn't
Me
sound
too.
like informational to me. It sounds more like,
Me too.
you know, it's just like some of those MTA conferences. Sometimes
Yep.
it's a work, learning something, but sometimes it's just salespeople trying
Yes.
to sell you crap.
Correct.
It's not like,
But Jim, I guess I'd segue to you. Will you, if you feel like we need to be a member of it, we can cycle that.
Okay.
And then, of course, is there any value?
I like the idea of a membership. I'm just
There's
not
the,
sure that this conference is.
but I did receive requests for Mary Ann, of course, wanting to go to the conference naturally.
yeah.
And so that's, there you go. Moving on.
Okay,
Number 11, Jim is yours. Jim Anderson is yours. It's the usual KCI that we see each year proposal for the summer 2025 tax bills and the Gazette for the stuff and then all the rest of that.
All I'm looking for is when we have our next meeting is to authorize me to be
The
able
12th,
to
okay.
enter into an agreement with them. This is budgeted as it's been in the past. The pricing is within $30 of what it was last year because it's so much per parcel. And they do the mailing, the whole thing. And by the time they figure out the cost of paper and we don't have production
People that
machinery
do
to
it.
even do it. So everything's done on I create it through the tax program, send it to them.
Yep.
And they create the PDFs and then send them out to everybody. So same business as what you've always done. I'm just asking for
Yep, the
the
authorization.
ability to
Yep.
sign a contract.
Sign it.
with them.
We got a comment on that at all? A discussion? It's pretty boilerplate.
for 2 weeks for the board meeting.
Yeah, for the 12th.
Yep.
Is that does it in
Yep.
time?
I think that's in plenty of time. I just have to have
Yep.
the information they need sometime in early June so that they can
Gotcha.
timely get your tax bills out so we can start that process in July 4th.
And number 12 then, long-term planning financial reserve. Jim, I know you and I, Jim Anderson, and you and I have talked about that. And it might be time to start portioning some of that.
Yeah,
So
you want me to?
I want you to do it.
Okay. You're
the bean counter. I'm
in you haven't formally set money on the accounting system aside for infrastructure, although you do have a savings account that was set aside within the general fund, which is now somewhere about $149,000 it's in there. So some point prior board established that it's been growing. What I would suggest is that we take, whatever's in that account, we should formally call it a reserve within our fund balance. Because the auditor, when they does your audit report, just includes it total cash, which they should, but they're not taking that and saying that's going to be set aside for a future project. Not knowing exactly what it is yet, but having money set aside. You want me to talk about the building?
Yeah,
Okay,
might as well
so
introduce a concept where it's a problem
Brian
for
and
us
I
immediately.
Met for several hours, almost 2 weeks ago now, to discuss needs within the township, because one of the ones that's come up several times since I've been here has got to do with storage. It's just, there's a lack of it. For me to put 3 banker boxes aside at the end of this year, I had to go through 3 different closets to find the ability to put something somewhere. And by law, we're required to keep that stuff. So that's part of it, but the other is just all the other needs. And if you ever go in that little building over here, that barely can get the truck in there.
35-year-old garage.
So one of the discussions that we had amongst a lot of things was, the marina, which we'd like to have Tom O'Brien meet with us and look at a overall plan there, work with Russ and whoever else to start considering future development or redevelopment of the marina property. The same here, the footprint of this property here. The entrance into your compost area, if trucks having run between the two buildings, and that's going to tear up your concrete and the asphalt anyways. But it's not to mention the safety hazard of having trucks and traffic constantly coming through there. If the compost changes because of the fact that Eagle's going to require it, we may want to consider putting a drive on the north side. And then, also consider the fact that you may have some future development there. If, let's say, the fire department / EMS or EMS, whatever, puts a building there. So you need to set aside a footprint for that. That would push that drive out coming in on the north side and keep the traffic from within here. So another reason to have Tom O'Brien, take a look at that, give us his insight. But the third thing, and more prevalent right now, is that building right here. I believe that if we planned over the next 12 months, the needs, so every department's considering their needs for that and put up a bigger building, take that down, put a bigger building up, which would have a maintenance work area in there that would be set aside and heated, but the rest of it would be cold storage. We could put a building up that could accommodate all those needs. It takes care of an immediate issue that the township has. But so the reserve that I guess I'm suggesting is that we want to take the 150 that's already in there and earmark it as a reserve, add another maybe 150,000 out of our fund balance right now into that, so that your reserve now would be at 3. That building cost next year, not sure what it would be, but I would suspect if you want to do a decent building, and you can probably spend 100,000, even if it's cold storage, maybe 150. That money would be set aside, and you'd still have the reserve moving forward for other infrastructure down the road that's going to be yet to be identified. The marina has money within its, savings, and we'll have the bond paid off here in another 5-6 years. And so I'm not suggesting we're using general fund money over there. I'm just suggesting that we start considering, the fire department has their money reserves for their purposes, which some of it's shared with the township. The PD has the same. We haven't. This, and I say we, but this board has historically not really addressed that. And so everything you've been doing has been reactive. And so I think we need to be proactive in setting the money aside and start identifying things that are going to come up in the next 5 years or 10 years and have, so we're not hamstringing the next board, because I know I could spend my next 4 years here and leave. And I know during the 4 years I'm here, I'm not going to have a problem. But I know if we don't address that, we're pushing a can down the road that somebody else is going to have to deal with. That's the most immediate one.
Which this building has been.
And this board needs to consider what we're suggesting. I'm not saying this is a done deal, but I think if everybody's agree with the concept of putting a new building out there, we can start looking at the needs and then start looking at the costs. And we have to start set the money aside now and then pull the trigger, let's say next spring.
With no new taxes.
And not have, and nobody's going to get an increase in their tax bill or anything like that. We're going to utilize money that we have, so in the long haul, it's going to save us money, I think, and the township will be better for it. The citizens will have a better, this is your township, so that's the thought. That's the immediate.
Any thoughts, guys?
This is a capital expenditure discussion, but there's also stuff coming up with the compost site too. That, we're going to
exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah, that materials management fact, is going to rear its head in about 2 years under that plan and under that law, unless there's a change from Lansing that says we're no longer doing that. But with change in politics,
Well,
politicals or something, but
having
and it's going to affect us.
the three things that in my mind, the marinas over here,
Yep.
you know, that's by itself. The footprint of the township property here, which you and I had a discussion about the park, you know, the trails, okay? And we've had discussions about the compost pile and the needs that are gonna potentially come up in the future. That's gonna expand out. We need to start considering that footprint, so we're not
absolutely
hindering what you're trying to do. And we're still utilizing the property in the best way we can. And so I don't want to willy-nilly say, oh, let's just put a new driveway through in the north end of the PD office. Not considering the fact that maybe there'll be a new EMS or fire or whatever. That's probably where it's going to get placed somewhere. So we got to consider the fact that that footprint needs to be left there. It may not happen for years, but at least you're thinking in the future. So that's
Master plan.
that was coming into the master plan, but more immediate. So my immediate suggestion is we set some money aside.
Amen.
Through a formal motion and create a reserve or committed fund balance for the township.
Yep.
The word infrastructure.
I will work with you on that motion for May 12th. Unless you guys, anybody say no?
No.
All right, very good.
Good.
Okay, that's finally the end of the agenda again, almost noon. Thank you all for the great exchange again. I think it's important that we have those exchanges. It's all public. It's right here. And we're paid employed to be here. We do have a public comment section coming up. So you want to kick that off? Come on up. There's a little green button up there. You got to push. Okay.
It's on. I can see the lights on.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jenny Walker, as most of you know, and I had heard that there was going to be discussion about short-term rental policy ordinances and things like that, maybe coming down the pike. So I reached out to Mary Jo, and she was kind enough to give me a few tidbits that were being discussed. And so I, in our text thread, I just want to read you what I had gave feedback on. And as far as the short-term rental, I'm sure it is probably needed, and you know better than I do what is needed. But unfortunately, I only rent to 2 to 4 groups each year. Therefore, my revenue is very limited. So for me, the proposed fee seemed a little bit excessive. I grossed $4,400 last year and probably won't come anywhere close to $6,500 this year or in the future, because I don't want to overload my property. This is being my full-time home. My neighbors who are all on board and their overloads come to my house, or the lake. After taxes, cleaning costs, and incidentals, that gross is reduced by 30 to 33%. So my net was just over $3,000. So a $500 to $600 fee seems a bit much on top of the lakefront taxes, previous household investments, township fees, etc. So I wonder if there could be a 2-fee level, say for those that would gross $7,500 or less, and those that exceed that as paid on their previous year taxes. However, I would not want to then have some other kind of property taxation if you're generating revenue off your home be put in place as well. I'm trying to do this to defray the expense of my property taxes, which have gone up $3,500 since I took ownership. It's increased approximately $500 a year, and it appears it'll continue each year hereafter. On a fixed income, it may become necessity for me to rent more to cover my property taxes and life expenses, causing an increased burden on the property and lake. Adding another $500 to $600 per year expenditure to the mix may accelerate this dilemma. So thanks for your time and I hope that, and Brian, I will forward a note for you to be able to forward on to your, other committee members and so on.
Outstanding. Thank you.
Okay,
Yep, thank you.
thanks.
Thanks, Jen. Anybody else public comment? Final comments, board, Mary Jo.
Yeah, I want to start by something. Volunteers calling for the work of these for the Parks and Rec. Oh, I'm sorry, I don't have some. Is there anyway, but anyway, yeah, the volunteer forms. So you say you found it, so
Here.
now can I go ahead and collect,
See her, it's already been
put
established.
the group together and, okay, that's all I have.
It can, but I would ask that no one be allowed to go over there to do anything until
Oh, yeah.
those, again, to respect that form that needs to be signed.
Right.
As
Free
a-
time,
as
and
a-
I'll let you know when we're gonna
Perfect.
do it and
Perfect.
everything.
Outstanding. Michelle.
Clerk's office will be open this Saturday for anybody who needs an absentee ballot or needs to come in and register to vote. And a reminder to come out and vote on Tuesday, May 2nd, 7 a.m. till 8 p.m. for the school bond issue.
Okay. Jim, Osman,
I have nothing more.
Jim Anderson.
I think I've said enough.
I think I've said more than enough as well. I would take a motion to adjourn this meeting at 12 o'clock.
No move.
Is there any support out there? Support for the Jim and Jim there. Any further discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed the same. Motion
All right.
carries. Thank you all. And for all of you hardy folks that joined us today for this 3 hours worth of fun, I really do appreciate you. And just know that we're doing